somebody actually genuinely wants to know how you're doing.
Yeah,
Yes.
I do.
The other is like, I'm asking something that requires a quick response.
It's
So,
just,
Hello.
yeah,
hello, and you say hello. How are you? Fine.
fine.
How's
Not
life?
really.
Fine.
Not they really care.
No, not particularly.
No.
Not particularly.
Just ticking the boxes.
But that is why our greetings in Africans are actually quite profound. You ask someone how they're doing, you'd better be ready for the responses.
That's not.
Proper. Yeah. In fact, in the Maasai,
yeah,
it's a whole conversation. It's called Lomone Abishana. Abishana is 7. You've got to go to the 7th story.
It's true. Like in Nigeria, you ask, hey, how una day?
Yao Lomon.
As you see me so like this, so now this morning, I wake up, see my sister don't come sick. I don't come off for house now. As I see you for now hospital I come out from just now. As you be asking me how I did. Yesterday, Johnny come from school, he not well. Today again, I wake up. My sister, life not easy, oh Jerry. Make I dey go. Greet your people, you hear. How are you? Resulted to all of that.
So the advisable thing is walk across the road and just wave.
You just wave from across the road. Because you're inviting someone to pour their heart out.
Yes.
And usually on the negatives.
But that's therapy.
That's the thing. People want to talk, people want to vent, right?
Yes, therapy.
Yeah.
Therapy.
It's important.
Okay. So let's get therapeutic this morning. Now that we've established that we're well. And Jerry is good and the body is inside the clothes. Let's start where we always start the show. Fellow Kenyans, in the last 24 hours.
What was the exact number yesterday? Do you see what's going on?
It keeps changing. Now we have gotten to that point where we're like, okay. We have some numbers. So what are the numbers anyway?
Okay.
For the Republic of Kenya.
Okay. The number specifically for the Republic of Kenya. So we know that we had gone over 6,000. So we're at 6,366 with a total of 148 deaths. The numbers still continue to rise, and seeing many things now that have popped up with the announcement of these numbers as of yesterday. They're talking about cases surging. The World Health Organization talking about that, we're going to see worse before we see better. Now Kenya reporting that children too are in danger of COVID-19 infection. Before they didn't know about the threat or the depth of the threat, because they had seen it a little bit in children, but the majority of the cases were in older people, and so some 399 children aged 10 and below have tested positive, debunking the myth that children are immune. So when this all started out, it was said that, children, their immunity is still being built up. They're not at risk for contracting COVID-19, but we see that is not the case. So after the last few weeks, it's a clear sign that they are not immune to the disease. So these are some of the things that we are looking at now. The numbers continue to increase. Testing is continuing, and we're likely to see more numbers as we go along. If we look at the world numbers, 10,585,152. This is what we see, and we know that this number is going to increase. By all indications, we're looking at 1 million new cases every week globally. At this time last week, we were at 1 million less. We were at 9,600,000 this time last week. That number obviously has changed. So it's likely that we will be at 1 million plus by this time next week. The United States is very close to 3 million cases. You're looking at the states where there are hotspots like Florida, like Texas, where they're recording 6,000 cases per day. And they're likely to contribute to push this number up to 3 million cases by the time Monday comes around. Mexico still continues to record high numbers of infections, 5,432 cases in the last 7 hours, and just over 10% of those reported cases resulting in death. 648 deaths since about midnight, East Africa time. 1,094 new cases in Bolivia, 687 in Guatemala. South Korea continues to record cases with 50 new cases in the last 24 hours. Australia with 84 new cases. Haiti, still in the region of the Central and Southern Americas, with 84 new cases. Those continue to rise. This is what we see. If we want to look at South Africa's numbers again as the highest in Africa, Yes, they continue to test and continue to record these high numbers. When we started off the week, there were 138,000. Now, 151,209. With the death, with the numbers of those resulting in death still quite low when doing a comparative analysis with the general population and the number of infections across the board. Okay, so things more or less continue to remain the same. Brazil with 1,408,485, still just behind the United States. The next after them is less 800,000 cases, which is Russia. So it continues to rise around the world, and some scary statistics still coming out of the United States. Them saying it could be a second wave, others saying that they've actually not left the first wave. So that's what we see.
Let me ask this question, even as we ponder over this matter. Is there any country in the world that has continuously had good reports after they had repealed the many restrictions that they had? Because from what I see, there seems to be, you repeal it, there's a surge.
Unfortunately, no. This is the answer, quite simply, to that question. Is that every country, from Germany to France to India to New Zealand, who have said, all right, we can go back, have then had to pull back.
Engage reverse gear.
Yeah, engage reverse gear and say, well, then we're not ready to do this. Even Rwanda, who didn't even open up fully. They just said, okay, let's start thinking about open up. And then they saw infections in the border towns. And they said, all right, because of this, we're going to go back to full lockdown. Even them, they did this. And they had not yet opened the economy. So this is what we see around the world, that something just doesn't give when it comes to then being allowed to open up.
Okay. And then now the WHO is saying the worst is yet to come.
Yes.
So mnataka tufanye nini?
And why? How do they explain this?
That the worst is yet to come?
Mm-hmm.
No, who knows?
You know, one of the things about WHO, you know, they've had to retract some of the things that they said earlier. Okay. A lot of the information that I get, I get the impression the WHO keeps bringing out, have to do with the knowledge of epidemics, knowledge of such conditions and what happens.
Yeah.
Okay. And if you are to go by those patterns, then you could argue that, yes, there are several phases to this thing. They start at a certain point. But why I ask if it is supported by research findings is because this is a new disease. It's been admitted that it is so. Now, because it is a new disease, the findings that we have right now, because it's new, are few.
Yeah.
But as more research is conducted, we'll be able to have better information as to what we can expect from this particular disease. Remember, there were predictions that were made about this particular continent. Those ones, unfortunately, have not come to pass.
Fortunately or unfortunately?
Well, if you're talking about something coming to pass, it hasn't come to pass. So that is unfortunate in terms of things coming to pass. Fortunate for us.
Yeah.
Yes.
Okay? But what I have found alarming is that no one wants to seriously, these bodies that look into these things, to seriously ask, how is it that this particular continent does not seem to be as affected as other parts of the world?
They're not having that conversation openly. Maybe they're trying to have it, or maybe they know the answer.
That possibility exists.
But they're not just talking about it. Because yes, why is this not a serious conversation?
No, it isn't.
Why aren't we seeing WHO saying we are sending our researchers across this continent to study and see what's happening?
You see, if you look at our death rates, if COVID was killing more people, let's argue it was killing, we would notice, because we'd say, but why are more people suddenly dying?
Yep.
Can we look into this and find out why more people are suddenly dying?
For sure, you cannot hide death.
No, you can't.
Somebody dies, that is a story. They have relatives, they have friends, they have co-workers, they have people that know them. Somebody will ask, what happened to so-and-so?
Right.
And the story will emerge that so-and-so has gone missing, so-and-so has gone. We are no longer seeing these people. So it would be clear that there is a rise in terms of deaths. We are not at that point. See.
No, and if
So what's
many,
happened? And yet we
Yes.
know that corona is actually in the country.
we do know, and we accept it. And if indeed people were dying in large numbers, you cannot hide large numbers.
You can't.
No.
You may stop it from appearing in the papers, but people will know that
Yep.
somehow there's something strange that is causing people
And there
to
would
die
have been
here.
an outlet to
And
discuss
you know what
this kind of
happens
thing
in such
regardless.
cases? People flee. All right. When
That
you see
particular area.
when you see refugees moving from an area it's because of conflict, because of death. If there's a disease, people are dying, and you're just seeing people falling off.
They'll
the streets.
move away from that place.
You move. The first thing that you want to do is move. So you see a lot of movement of people. We're not seeing any of all those things. Okay, there's a lot that needs to be explained anyway when it comes to this pandemic. Scientists are claiming that there's a new flu virus with pandemic potential that's been found in China,
In China. Yeah.
in pigs. It hasn't started mutating, but they're saying it has a potential to actually jump from pigs to humans and spread.
Why pigs? Why not bats?
Corona already got bats.
This
You
one,
know, the
this
thing
one of the
is-
pigs is trying to say, "Kwani mnafikiri?"
What do you think? Why am I being left out?
Yeah.
Even me, I can.
The thing is, there's a lot that simply, that needs to be asked, and there's a lot that needs to be answered. And there's a lot that we still don't know. I have difficulties with the definitive way in which sometimes we hear these pronouncements from WHO. Yes, because I read and I look and I see and I'm asking, okay, where is the research to support this? And I'm not seeing it.
Unfortunately, I think that because of things that had happened in the past, then they now took that and set as precedent to then predict the future, which in my view was a bit myopic, because they're not the only ones. We heard from Melinda Gates quite clearly that, she sees in her mind, she sees visions of people
In Africa.
falling in the streets in Africa.
Sorry.
And I said, okay, well, all right, thanks, Melinda. But this one, you would have to found it on some kind of, proof or
I can
and they actually
see-
didn't happen.
I actually can see what she's seeing. I can. If the trajectory that was seen in the West,
Yeah, if what was happening in the West
with their
actually
level
came-
of preparedness,
Then with what historically had been in Africa, then
let's
her
call it-
vision was not quite off.
no, it wasn't off at all.
No.
If you look at our level of unpreparedness, okay, which mirrors the preparedness of the West, then indeed,
You could see people falling in the streets. However, imagine their chagrin now when it actually did not happen, and then they must be asking themselves, so then what is it? This preparedness that we often talk about clearly didn't come in, but there's something about this that is not affecting Africans
I
in the
took
way
her
in which we
warning
thought
as
it
something
would.
that should be looked at positively.
Yeah.
For absolutely.
That was my view.
It was basically saying, guys, if this thing comes towards you, be better prepared. Let's try and do something that can help.
Don't wait for it to hit you,
Yeah.
because if it hits you, the consequences will be completely
dire.
disastrous.
It will finish you.
It will.
Let's take a break. 17 minutes after 6. This is the Situation Room. It's Kenya's biggest conversation. The conversation has started. We're shortly going to be looking at newspaper headlines and what big stories are there coming out this morning. First, the weather. Okay?
All right, it's Wednesday morning. Let's take a look at what the weather will look like today. 13 degrees and mostly cloudy in Nairobi. Chances of rain quite high for later on with highs of 23. And then moving on central in Nyeri, 13 degrees, mostly cloudy conditions. It'll be a wet afternoon here as well, highs of 22. Highs of 23 are going to be recorded in Nakuru. We will see partly cloudy conditions and rainy conditions later. Thunderstorms forecasted for Eldoret at 19 degrees the high, currently at 12 degrees and mostly cloudy conditions. 19 degrees and mostly cloudy in Kisumu as well, highs of 27 and lows of 18. Kakamega is likely to be a wet afternoon with highs of 24. Currently mostly cloudy at 16. 26 degrees and mostly cloudy in Malindi. Cloudy conditions to follow with highs of 28 and lows of 24. Mombasa is partly cloudy at 25 degrees. We'll see highs of 28 and lows of 23. All right, let's step out of Kenya into Kampala, where it's mostly cloudy at 18 degrees, highs of 26 and lows of 17. Dar es Salaam is mostly cloudy at 23 with highs of 31. It's going to be a warm day there. Where it's a little bit cooler, and that's in Johannesburg, 5 degrees. We'll see highs of 17 and lows of 3 with sunny and bright conditions throughout the day. Lagos is partly cloudy this morning. Chance of thunderstorms starting quite early. Highs of 28 and lows of 23. We'll take a look at that in a short while. In New York, it is still Tuesday night. Clear skies, however, at 22. We'll see highs of 26 and lows of 21 through Wednesday. And in Paris, it's cloudy conditions at 20 degrees. Showers expected to come in very soon. Highs of 25 and lows of 16. And finally, for now, in London, at 16 degrees, it's mostly cloudy. It's going to stay that way for most of the day. Highs of 21 and lows of 12.
So before we hear today's program, City Muga, Ndu, somebody's asking, is he highs and lows? What do they mean?
Highs means that it's not going to get much higher than that in terms of temperature. Low means it's not going to get lower than that in terms of temperature. Hot and cold. Hot and cold.
So highs of 25 and lows of 16 means that it'll fluctuate between 25 and 16.
Yes. What's tickling you? I don't understand. Sisi, I beg, help me with this guy today. You can't find help.
You know, what you asked me to do is to identify and describe his funny bone. That I cannot do.
Cannot do.
No, sorry.
Today's proverb, City.
The road doesn't tell the traveler what lies ahead. This is a Bantu saying. Yes. The road doesn't tell the traveler what lies ahead.
Okay.
This one is a bit profound.
It is.
A bit.
Okay. Let's get into the headlines today, shall we? We'll look at this whole political thing that keeps rearing its head on the front pages of the papers. The new BBI army. It's just like giving us a profile of the political leaders in parliament who are going to be spearheading the BBI conversation once that report is taken to parliament, because that's where it's expected to head. The term of the BBI, what was it now? Task force, team, whatever they were, expired yesterday. There are reports that they were requesting an extension for some few days before they present their report to the president. When it's presented to the president and the ODM leader Raila Odinga, those two will discuss it, and then it's expected that President Raila will peruse and give direction. Then from there it goes into Parliament, MPs scrutinize it and distill the issues with the ultimate goal of taking it to a referendum for people to vote yes or no. A lot of that, well, so let's wait for the report anyway and see how it goes. Cindy? Okay. I've got two stories. Should I start? Let me just start with this one so I can just feel a bit sad and then move on. So there's an 80-year-old woman who has died after a girl hit her with a stone. This is in Konywera village of West Seme location in Kisumu County, where this girl was grazing cattle somewhere out of field.
What is this thing about grazing
cattle
cattle?
and people dying as a result?
Cattle fields, yes. This elderly lady comes out, and this is her compound. She says hello to the young girl. The young girl does not respond. The elderly woman says, all right, so if you're not going to answer me, please just get up, drive your cows away, go. I'm not going to deal with somebody who is not responding to me, who is showing me disrespect. And she starts going and says, don't come back here. That's the point when the girl turns and says, I will come back. Hey. The elderly lady thinks, okay, so what are you trying to show me? Delinquency. Picks a stick, hits the girl. Girl picks a stone, throws at the lady, misses. Girl picks a bigger stone, throws at the lady, hits her in the stomach. Lady clutches her stomach, walks away, goes, sits down somewhere in pain, stands up, walks away somewhere else, lies in pain. The grandchildren look at her and they're like, hiya, something has happened to our grandma. They now take action, move her to a shaded area. When later the whole family comes and they're trying to take her to the nearest facility, she dies.
Well, all right.
4 things. One, the population density in our neck of the woods, all of us, my friend, is increasing, which means there's going to be pressure on land. It's clear. And yet, traditional ways of doing things like keeping cattle that went to graze, and the understanding in those days that grazing land was just grazing land.
Yep.
Even if it was your property, your cows could also graze in somebody's land. That particular understanding seems to have been lost. That's number one. Number two, you talk about generational differences. That's the term I'm actually using, okay? You will find that this grandma, if you're 80, you come from a generation where you understood that children did what they were told.
Yep.
For fear of you having to report them, because she must have known who the child was.
Of course she does.
Yes, and knew where the child comes from. So it's not just that divide has continued, but those old values and old ways, again, when it comes to social interactions, gone. Not disappearing, gone.
Gone.
Because stories of people dying because cattle was grazing, you hear of communities going to war because cattle have encroached not on their land, but on their maize plantation.
Yep.
And in large numbers. 3, you have a situation here where it is clear that the value system we take for granted of respect that young people ought to have for the elders, out of the window, it's gone.
Completely gone.
It's gone. There's a generation, the generation I come from, and I'm sure the two of you come from. Can you imagine a younger person talking back at an older person?
Even till today, CT, I say today, I step into Nigeria like this. It is unheard of. You can't, even if people I don't know, you can't. You won't.
As long as they're older, that's it.
That's it. It doesn't matter if it's an older drunkard. It doesn't matter if it's an older what. Older. That is enough to get respect from you. Enough.
You've got to show respect.
Absolutely. I said I have children. I cannot be in the presence of my mother and somebody passes and I don't greet. Forget it. What? No way. Forget it.
And this has nothing to do with whether you know them or not.
No.
Lastly, there is something slightly amiss among our young people. Amiss in this sense. I don't think they understand, or whether they are taught, whether they are cognizant of the consequences of their actions. We heard of 2 boys, chased a girl, 11-year-old, beat her, she died. Her body was found in a maize plantation 3 days later.
Yep.
This boy who is in custody, that's just one case. His friend, the one he was with, accessory to murder. And it all began on something that you can look at, but it's something that happens normally.
It's kids, just
yes,
kids
exactly.
arguing.
Now, what is it about not knowing the limits of what to do?
Yeah.
You know where I take this? Huh? In the olden days, when you wanted to marry a girl, you literally took your cousins and brothers and you snatched her and you ran with her. You ran away with her. Literally. And her brothers and cousins would also know and they would wait for you. And there would be a proper rungu fight. It is never recorded that anybody died.
No one ever died.
No one died. So injuries maybe, but no one died. So all I'm saying is, there are certain societal norms that we as Africans have taken for granted. Those things we take for granted don't exist. And we need to revisit this thing all over again.
It is. It's one of those that, yes, it's pointing to something happening in our society. And if we don't start addressing such kind of things, then we are losing. We are missing the big picture. It's there in the BBI. I don't expect any of these parliamentarians will even give it a 5-minute glance.
Probably not.
On the BBI. We'll be looking at other things in the BBI. So anyway, let's take a break at 6:30. We need to look at the traffic, the highs and lows on the roads this morning. And then we'll continue this conversation. Good morning. It's a situation. It's Kenya's biggest conversation. In the room this morning is Eric Latif, Eziokobundu Oko, and Charles Muga.
They are. All right. Well, let's take a look at what's happening on the roads right now before we get back into the swing of things. And it looks like it's quite smooth wherever you want to look this morning. Unfortunately, Komarok Koch Bridge, it's jammed all the way to Outer Ring Kariobangi this morning. It is bumper to bumper. Everybody's trying to get out and at the same time. On Mombasa Road, it's not so bad just yet. It's been terrible for a couple of days and I hope it doesn't follow in the same form today. We'll have to take a look at that in a short while and see how things might be a little bit different from yesterday or if they're going to remain the same. If you haven't left, it might mean that you're going to get stuck right around that area today. But right now, it's not looking so bad. Taking a look at other parts of the city as well. Coming off of Ngong Road, the traffic has just started to build up. Same thing on Langata Road as well. It's going to be a busy Wednesday, starting at the beginning of the month as well. Coming off of Thika Road into the CBD is not much of an issue at the moment, but we will look at that later. Traffic hour is yet to officially begin. In other parts of the country also, we'll keep an eye on that and let you know what it all looks like. Spice of MKE, that's how you can reach us on Twitter. Let us know what you see. We want to keep it moving this morning on Wednesday.
What do you have that's interesting?
Well, do you remember last year there was this case that took the nation by storm about 2 rugby players who had been jailed for 15 years for rape, and there are so many things that came out of that story.
Yeah.
Well, it seems that now this might be taking a different turn, and a grave mistake by the prosecution not to swear a witness has given a lifeline to 2 rugby players jailed 15 years for rape. Justice Grace Ngenye quashed the conviction against Alex Olaba and Frank Wanyama and ordered for a retrial after finding that one of the witnesses who testified against them, leading to the sentence, was not sworn.
Okay. Meaning?
They were not sworn in when they came to give testimony.
Again, meaning?
They were not sworn in as a witness.
Essentially, procedure
It's a technicality.
Procedure
was not followed. So
yeah.
it's a technicality here, and a technicality upon which that entire case and all the findings has been thrown out.
Okay.
Mistrial.
So it's a mistrial, and she's asked now for a retrial. All of this now must come through.
Start from square zero.
Ngenye said, I find that there is no record of one witness being sworn, and although the witness was cross-examined by the accused persons, the court finds that there was a mistrial. Under the Criminal Procedure Code, a witness appearing in any court case to testify must swear by the Bible or by any other religion they profess to and declare that the evidence they give is the whole truth. Justice Ngenya ruled that since that did not happen when the witness testified, it constituted a ground for mistrial and a violation of their right for a fair trial.
Imagine.
Can you imagine? A technicality
It has
as
gone
small as
through
that.
the entire, and then you find that this witness was not. How? Okay. When I read this story yesterday, I asked myself a couple of questions. Number one, are we talking about witness coming before in the courtroom where the presiding officer is the judge or magistrate? Witness stands there, witness starts giving a testimony, and nobody has noticed that this
witness
did not
was
take
not
oath.
sworn in, did not take oath. Somebody forgot. It was a busy day. There was a lot of testimony. There were very many people who were testifying that day. What was it? What could have been the reason why this person did not take oath?
Do you remember in New Zealand, they declared that they were COVID-free?
Yep.
Yani, not kidogo, 100% free.
No new case for months.
2 individuals, 2 who had been in quarantine, left quarantine. Somebody
Without
neglected,
being tested.
Yes.
Without being tested on compassionate grounds, no less.
Because essentially good behavior.
They're older.
They've been here long enough. And this is an establishment where you are tested as you go in, you're tested when you're in there, you're tested when you're on your way out. How on earth did they not test these people?
Hey.
Compassionate grounds notwithstanding.
Yeah.
So, you're talking about human error.
Is rife.
Yes.
Human error is rife.
It isn't the same judge.
And it went and went.
And they went to jail.
They went to jail.
Up to a point where they were found guilty, they were being sentenced, they went through mitigation. Even their lawyers had not at this point noticed. At some point it emerges, wait a minute.
So how did it come to the attention of the judge? And this wasn't the same judge who found them guilty. Is it? No.
This is one of those stories where you're like, okay, so...
First of all, get new lawyers. Just because the job of someone who is supposed to be defending you is to be looking for loopholes,
Yes.
things that can get you off the hook.
Maybe
This is something that got them off the hook after the fact. So maybe this is why they should actually retain the lawyers, because
Is it the
they
lawyers?
were involved in this process
Probably
where
the-
this
yes.
was found out.
Probably
Because
the
they
lawyers
did
are
say
the
that they were
ones who-
going towards appeal.
Let me suspend my view on that particular matter
Yeah.
until it is clear.
Who did
how-
what?
yes,
Who did what?
Yes.
Yeah, because it's gone to appeal, and that's when the issues start emerging. And
Yeah.
you're like, hiya.
They were appealing the judgment. They were appealing a number of things. They appealed the judgment, they appealed the sentence, and through all of this is what was then found that, and you can imagine an entire case like this whereby the complainant and her family were also saying that even that 15-year sentence that was given was not enough.
Yep.
Right? They actually wanted more. They wanted a tougher sentence to have been handed out here. So you can imagine that entire process being thrown out on a hair thread technicality.
What I want to know is what are the limits for a crime of this nature? Because usually you're told you can be jailed, fined, this is the limit, this is the extent.
Remember, in Sexual Offences Act, it has a mandatory minimum, 15.
Of 15 years.
Mandatory minimum. And this is why also the judges have been saying, all right, so give us leeway to also look at the case by case. Because in some cases they say, this person, what degree of involvement did they have in the commission of this crime?
Actually, it's Justice Odunga who actually brought that matter up.
Yes.
With regard to minors, says, look, bwana, we are bound by what we already have.
Yeah.
And yet, you can look at a case and you realize,
This was actually
This
not...
was not
yes.
coercion or force.
it wasn't.
Yeah.
And yet the law as it currently stands doesn't give you that room to maneuver.
Mandatory minimums.
Yes.
So, and I think this is another debate. We've had this debate before. We should revisit this debate of mandatory minimums, especially when you look at minors and the age group of minors as well. Somebody who is turned 18 2 months ago is no longer a minor.
Sorry.
Yep. Caught in the act with a 17-year-old.
Could have been consensual.
Completely consensual.
Look,
the age difference is 5 months. It does not matter.
Eric brought
you
this
are
matter
18,
up.
You are 17.
Eric pointed this matter up. Remember when we were talking about pregnancy on the increase among young people? If you listen to many cases, it's consensual.
It's very consensual.
You'll be told, this is my boyfriend, this is my friend, but they're both minors. So what do you want to do? Jail the man? Or rather, jail the young man, the boy?
The boy.
Yeah? Well, what do you want to do?
I think also it's about time we have that conversation as a community, as a society.
No, we do.
If you look at, you hear very many cases. If you open up the phone lines now and tell people, just give us your story of what you know, what you've heard from either your own children or your close relatives and their children. You'll hear of a girl who took off and went to a boy's house and stayed there over the weekend and came back.
Yes.
Find out that boy is 19 and the girl is 16.
Yes.
Right? Those are both children, but one legally is an adult. Somebody who's in, if you look back at even when I was in high school.
Yes.
From 3, from 4, you're trying to talk to girls from 3, from 4. Yes, some of them will talk to you, but also you know that your competition is college boys. You know that very well. As you're talking to these girls, you know your competition.
You know
is
you're
college
outgunned.
boy. Yes, college boy. Just because this guy cleared high school last year or 2 years ago.
That's it.
He's now in first year or second year of college. Not even fourth year.
The guy is 2 years older than you.
Just 2 years older. That's your competition. That means that this person who's above 18 is the one who's talking to this girl who is your age mate at 17. Right? The ones who are in college, that's the same thing that happens. You get into college as a fresher. Who is talking to you? The fourth years.
Right.
Which means that the first years and second years have absolutely zero chance of talking to the first years. Who are they going to talk to? They'll talk to the high school kids. This is how we are as a society.
It is the reality. And also the other reality is that there are communities where 14, 15, 16-year-olds are still married.
Yep.
And it is considered normal.
Yep. But to the full consent of the parents.
Oh, full. In fact,
and the community.
That is the age where they are most eligible for marriage.
Yeah. It's a big discussion, a big conversation that ought to keep taking place. So as we talk about coronavirus and all, you remember June 10th is when we expect the president to come and tell us, fellow Kenyans, the brain trust and all those things, and having had meetings with the Council of Governors, we've
July
agreed,
10th.
we looked, July 10th. I said June 10th?
Yes.
All right, July 10th. Counties will convert a portion of their 300 isolation beds for critical care and allaying fears of a possible shortage of ICU as the country nears the peak of COVID-19 pandemic with 6,300 cases so far. The decision on how many beds will be specifically set aside for ICU will be a reserve of the counties. So basically, you see counties from what the irreducible minimums that were discussed on June 9th at State House, the irreducible minimums that were given by the Brain Trust of X number of beds per county, preparedness, level of preparedness. Reality is counties have not met that. So now they're trying to work around on, okay, so shall we move some of our beds from our hospitals and say that these beds shall be set aside for COVID?
The issue of moving beds and setting aside a facility or part of the facility, you see, I don't see where the complication is because you already have the facility. You already have the beds. All you need to do is isolate this particular portion of your hospital and say, when HIV had taken its toll, they created specific wards. If, let's say, for instance, there were a total of 10 wards within that, they'd call another one Ward 11, if there are 10.
Yeah.
You are not told what Ward 11 was for, but someone who's friendly will tell you, Appa, this one is for people who are HIV positive. Then you go, oh. If we're able to do that, we're able to do that for COVID right now. But the malaise that I think continues to encumber our lives is this thing called waiting to be given.
Yes. We are so used to everything being funded by donors.
Yes, they're waiting. Donors have more problems than we do
Yeah.
with regards to COVID.
Yeah.
If you've been assisted, thank God on your knees. But they need all the resources they have for their own people right now.
Right now,
Yes.
true.
You're waiting for beds, you're waiting for money, we're waiting for everything.
This thing of getting ready, they're
Even-
delaying it. If you look at hospitals like Aga Khan, man, they set aside a long time ago.
Within the first 4 weeks.
Yes. They
Went
set
to
aside.
the Aga Khan Sports Club, they said the pavilion, they said, all right, so we're going to use this. And they said 100-bed capacity.
End
like
of
that.
story. Done.
Nairobi Hospital has already started off with their
Yes, they have. Yes, they
two
have.
hospital in one.
Mombasa could be the model that people need
Yep.
to
Mombasa
to
County.
emulate. Mombasa County, yes. So those who have intentions and those who have purposed to do this have done it. And they're looking for ways. Some are still waiting for PPEs.
Yeah. Some are fighting as county governors closing hospitals. We'll talk about that. The issue of Machakos, the governor of Machakos County declaring an entire hospital shut down and closed because of COVID-19 cases happening in the hospital. Now, the council, the Medical and Practitioners Council, has said, no, reopen the hospital.
Open it. Yeah.
Open. It's not the first time we've seen this kind of battle back and forth between the governor and this particular Shalom hospital. Something is amiss. 14 minutes to 7, it's a Situation Room. It's Kenya's biggest conversation, and this conversation continues. Hey, it's 10 minutes to 7 o'clock. This is
Spice
Kenya's biggest conversation. We are live streaming the show on www.spicefm.co.ke. Watch us on YouTube, Spice FM KE. You can also watch us on Twitter and Facebook, Spice FM KE. CT. There's more blood being drawn by the EACC.
It would appear so. This story on page 11 of the Standard, it tells an interesting story of a certain KRA manager. This time we're at KRA.
Yeah.
Who he is actually in Milimani Court yesterday, but for tax evasion. It is being claimed that his wife and their company are accused of failing to remit to KRA from 2010 to 2015. Yes. And it's 38 million Kenya shillings.
In tax?
Yes, that's tax.
5 years?
Yes. But there's an issue here. Prior to this, their properties had been attached by the Anti-Corruption Commission.
Okay.
Under their lawyer, a certain Mr. Abbas, had gone to court, and the court had set this matter to rest and had given them back their property.
Okay.
Now, Mr. Abbas claims that this is the Anti-Corruption Commission's a way of getting back at Gikonyo. That was his defense.
For winning the case.
For winning the case.
That attached
about this,
case.
yes. And the Anti-Corruption Commission saying that they have difficulties trying to understand how it is in the 18 years, in just 18 years, this man has been able to accumulate over 800 million Kenya shillings, yet he has no other business that you can say does that amount of work. What they were able to discover when they looked at the details of his business was that he would get a bonus from his tea fund in Muranga. And that amount, no matter what they did not amount to what he has. Because in immovable assets, he has immovable assets worth 355 million.
Wow.
Yep. He
Where
has
are
cash
they?
deposits in 6 banks. They are in Nairobi, Mombasa, Kilifi, and Kwale.
Beach plot, my friend.
Yes. Then he has cash deposits in 6 bank accounts totaling 399 million. That's 400 million. Then he has 4 plots in Nyeri and Shanzu in Mombasa, valued at 151 million. I haven't finished yet.
Okay.
Then he has 13 plots in a place called Sosian Estate in Nairobi, worth 75 million shillings.
No kugeria money. No kugeria. You know, you meet someone like this, tunajaribu tu. No kugeria money.
Jameni. Hey, people are...
13 plots.
That's what I was going to say. I stuck
There
on
are
that one. In one
most,
area,
most
13.
Kenyans, he owns 2 plots.
He has reached.
He has tried.
It goes to Kamaki's bypass. 13, my friend.
And that's the least
Yes.
that he has.
Yep.
Least.
4 plots in Nyali and Shanzu. Cash in bank, 400 M. 355 assets in Nairobi, Mombasa, Kilifi, and Kwale. Hey, my
Then
friend.
KRA wants to come and shout at you tomorrow. Meanwhile,
Yeah,
there are
asking
people
you
who
all
are-
these things.
The irony is not lost on me. There is a KRA
know,
manager.
This
who
KRA
failed
manager is being accused of failing to pay tax.
to pay tax.
And his lawyer is claiming this is the way the Anti-Corruption Commission is now trying to get back at him. And I'm thinking, that is your defense for your client.
Okay.
You missed the huge elephant in the room. They completely missed in this argument. They missed the huge elephant in the room. Is there a way to get back? Did he take it or not?
You
Is
know,
this 800 million there or
this
not?
gentleman can't be the only person that the Ethics and Anti-Corruption Commission are investigating. I doubt very much if he is the only one. Remember, there was a time when an entire swath of individuals were actually arrested at KRA. There were so many, it was mind-boggling.
Yep. Over various offenses.
Yes. Now, the one institution that is charged with the duty of collecting taxes for the country, you work there, you're a manager, and then you're charged with not paying taxes.
Yeah.
The irony is not lost on me.
It's not.
But what I find particularly disturbing, when I look at the case we're looking at yesterday of the gentleman who again worked for the treasury, okay, and had a serious case, given his position what he seemed to have accumulated.
Yep.
There's a moral side to this that no one seems to see. Because when you're found guilty of some of these things, what happens is that it's not you alone. It involves your wife, your children, your relatives. You've changed their lives completely.
Yeah.
You suddenly will find that they can't probably go to the same church they went to. There are many things that they did before they now absolutely cannot.
There are circles they will not be able to find themselves in anymore, regardless.
Remember, we're talking about stigma.
Yeah.
Now, this is it. So, you mean the question is, you mean to tell me this guy, all this thing, this person had actually, these were ill-gotten goods. Now,
so look at it. Then the schools that you sent your children to
Yes.
all this time, the things then that you're able to purchase all this time that earned you a certain status in society, the places that you're able to frequent, the things that you're able to buy, the holidays that you're able to take, this, that, the other thing, all of them on ill-gotten wealth. So now suddenly the eye of society turns on you in a different way. Your children, like you said, your wife or wives, that then you're able to amass over time. Everybody starts to look at those people differently.
That's why in this dark side of the world, it's advisable that when you start accumulating this kind of ill-gotten wealth, straight get into politics. Secure yourself a political
Laundering.
position. Once you get the political position, then now the story changes.
for the time that you are in that position,
The story changes.
when you leave that position,
Make sure you don't leave.
Now the
You're
pe-
taken to court. You have everybody else fighting on your side, right? You know, all these stories of, this is a political battle. I mean, what kind of stories are these? This is because of Tanga Tanga Kieleweke. Everything else will be heaped onto that case. And in fact, you may even get away from that and go and vie for a higher position and win it. And you may get impeached and you'll still survive. In fact, you look at yourself being a deputy prime minister. Get yourself into a political position if you start getting this kind of games running.
Eric, the only interesting twist in what you're saying, and which is also true, yes, that is the way to go, but your money will have gone. Our politics really knows how to chew finances.
True.
We have had really genuinely wealthy people who got into politics. Not this wealth of 1.5 houses. No. We are talking about a lot of it. You get into elective politics in this country, more so in central Kenya, haki, that money of yours will go.
It goes.
All of it.
You see, if you're a thug, you get into politics, you continue stealing. As you open a tap on this side where it's being eaten by people, but you also have another one, huge.
That is being fed.
Yeah, that's being fed.
But you know, Eric, there's this twist that these are the people who set examples for those who are younger.
Unfortunately.
What I'm saying is this, all that happens if you have a system that agrees with you and promotes it. The day it changes, you will get jailed.
True.
It doesn't matter how long it takes. It doesn't matter how clever you think you are.
It's-
In the
40th
end,
day.
it's going to catch up with you.
It's
The
going to
40th day
happen.
cometh.
Yes. It'll catch up
Completely.
with you.
This is true.
Yes.
Let's see how this case unfolds. I mean, it's 38 million shillings in terms of unpaid taxes. And there's the other separate case of trying to prove how you accumulated all this wealth in 18 years with a salary of 119,000 shillings a month.
Well, we know that, with the ruling, if he's not able to prove this wealth, then it's going. Just like CT said, all of it will go. We will take it from you.
If only
Oh
the
my
money went,
goodness.
that would be one thing. But look at the lives.
Everything
it will
else
have.
that it affects,
Just look at what else follows.
especially for the children.
Your children.
So you
man.
ask yourself, was it worth
Was it worth it?
Yes.
Was it worth it?
It looks like those who are plodding and genuinely just doing things in bits are stupid. That's what seems to be the case. That actually is the way to go. It may appear to be silly, it may appear to be pedantic, but that is the way to go. This embarrassment and this stigma will never follow you.
It'll follow your children, and they go on for the rest of their life brandishing the scarlet letter upon something that they did not do.
No, they didn't. And it follows you even to your grandchildren.
Coming to the top of the hour, remind us today's proverb, CT.
The road doesn't tell the traveler what lies ahead.
This one was apt for the story that we just talked about. The road doesn't tell the traveler what lies ahead. Looks good for now.
Looks really good for now.
Umbe. The lions up ahead. Keep it right here. The Situation Room continues. We are discussing a number of stories, interesting things that are happening in the country, around the region. We'll also be going to the DRC in the 8 o'clock hour. Well, We'll stick here to find out why. Good morning. 7 o'clock.
This morning, still foggy in some parts of Nairobi, and it's quite low on Mombasa Road specifically, so you want to be very careful. All the way from the SGR, Athi River, the stage towards Simba Cement is moving very well right now. It hasn't really changed much. We're entering into traffic hour officially, and so we'll see that there will be a heightening of traffic right around the SGR till the JKA turn off, and then further down towards General Motors. Looking at other trouble spots, we had the issue around Outer Ring, and Mwangaza Road is flowing well towards Kangunda Road, so that doesn't look too terrible. The jam at Outer Ring, however, is still one for the books this morning. Something started off very early, and it seems like it's going to give us those remnants for a while now. Other parts of the city, however, don't have much in terms of traffic issues. Let's look at Mombasa. We're getting into the town. It's not so terrible either. You'll be able to make your way in and out without much of an issue. I'll take a look at Kisumu later, but for now it looks pretty good, guys, for a Wednesday morning, that is, and the beginning of the month. Spice FM KE, not to forget. That's how you can get in touch with us. Tell us what you see in case something is happening in your neck of the woods that we need to let other people know about.
This is The Situation Room, the home of hard-hitting political commentary and penetrating insights about the state of the nation. This is a talk radio experience like no other. The Situation Room, a place for hard truths, debates, and elevated conversations. The Situation Room, witty, political, engaging, deep, controversial.
In the room, we have after 7 o'clock.
Muga.
Remember, we are live streaming the show on Spice FM KE, Facebook, YouTube, and Twitter, and also on our website www.spicefm.co.ke. This is the only show that you can actually tune in and watch a radio show on your digital devices across the country or across the globe. You sound like you have something major.
A new report on the status of human rights during the pandemic has exposed gaps that have resulted in torture and deaths and stigma against recovered COVID-19 patients. The report, it's very long, titled Pain and Pandemic, Unmasking the State of Human Rights in Kenya in Containment of the COVID-19 Pandemic, was released by the Kenya National Commission on Human Rights yesterday. Since the first case of the coronavirus was reported in the country, the Commission said it had received 222 complaints from Kenyans whose rights were violated, mainly by state agents, with the police fingered in the highest number of cases, 91. The Commission also documented 10 deaths and 87 varied cases of inhuman and degrading treatment by law enforcement officers. The cases include attacks on journalists. The officers were accused of using excessive force, mainly against men at 54.1%, followed by women at 26.1%, intersex persons at 14.4%, and other groups at 5.4%. Many Kenyans, out of fear, were unable to seek immediate medical attention, meaning families lost loved ones who got injured or fell sick past curfew hours. So this report has come out to say that there are gross violations and a violation of rights in enforcement of virus rules.
So it's not only looking at people who have tested positive going into quarantine or isolation getting affected, but it's everybody.
Yeah, across the board. And even those who have gone in and have recovered and have left hospital, they talk about stigma also.
Okay, so there's the stigmatization now in that case. This report, there's that one by the Kenya National Commission on Human Rights.
Supported by the EU that cannot go unnoticed.
Yeah, supported by the EU, right? There's the other data that keeps coming out on what the status of people who across the country and how they're suffering. Half of city residents suffer reduced income amid heavy job losses. This is a new research by TIFA Research, Trends and Insights Africa. They're talking about same thing. When the government is consuming all this information, I wonder how it's reacting.
Shouldn't the question be, is the government consuming all those
I'm sure
information?
It's consuming this
or is
information.
it just a report that, sits on a desk somewhere and then
I'm sure it is.
later?
I'm sure it is. And one of the reasons why I'd imagine the president says, I am aware of what's happening. I am aware that we're having serious issues economically. The balance between protecting lives and livelihoods and pushing for reopening of the economy so that people can get back to gainful employment and trying to eke out a living is one thing that you can imagine is coming from data that is fed to him on a regular basis. And this is where the data is coming from. However, the thing is the response looking at how the government can support the people who are now becoming more and more people becoming vulnerable, or is the government's response saying, okay, let's open up and allow people to go and live their lives? And those who are able to come up, they'll come up and they'll support those who can't. But the government has provided a conducive environment by lifting curfew. Is that it?
Well, I think that question would definitely come up, and it's important to look at it like that, to ask yourselves, okay, so now is that the breadth and length of what we're actually looking at? But then if you want to take it further, do these things happen outside? And I think COVID comes in and shows you what the habits of people normally are.
Yeah.
So you have to ask yourself that before COVID, this was happening, which is where the focus should be. After COVID, it is going to continue. If this is what it has been shown as habitual, it's going to continue. And I think that's what should be dealt with. At that point, to say, okay, violation of human rights, violation of where you're allowed to go, whatever that may be, wherever this violation takes place, there is an index, there is a threshold that clearly is being crossed. So now state agencies, should they be looked at? Should they be scrutinized a little bit more? Absolutely. Because COVID just comes to show, it just brings it out to the fore. But it doesn't mean that stuff was bubbling beneath the surface all of this whole time. It just gives an opportunity to report on it because COVID brings it out more. But it is there. So now that is what should be looked at as a problem that is still going to be there because it seems that a lot of things come out because COVID is present, without us looking at the fact that when COVID is gone, we're still going to be dealing with those issues.
Many of these violations, they touch on the police service, right? What other agencies?
Out of the 222 cases, 91 touch on police specifically.
Okay.
Right?
More than 100 are not police, so...
That's the thing. More than 100 are not police.
But it is alarming that close to 50% should be police.
No, you'd expect so.
Why?
Enforcement.
The
way I'm not saying that we are justifying it. I'm saying that from the touch points of state and human beings is police.
I understand and I agree with you. I'm simply saying that what I don't agree with is
that it should be that high.
Yes, and that we should accept it. And we should even expect it. We should be alarmed by it. We should castigate it. That's too high. Even if it was 2%, it's high. I mean, if you're aiming to have a situation where the duties and the functions of the police are to protect lives, that's what should come to the fore. This isn't what we're dealing with. The moment it gets to that number, then protecting.
I'm actually shocked that it's less than 50%.
You expected it to be...
Yeah, that's what I'm asking you. So all these other cases...
It's interesting that they haven't mentioned which other actors then were at fault for the 100 and so other cases, right? It's interesting that this has not been mentioned.
Because when you talk about violation of human rights, state violating the rights of citizens, it's what government agencies would those be? It's
also interesting, though, that they have mentioned that they're individuals. So then getting you to see then what the image of the police actually is. They're individuals then who have posed as police during this period, then who have either threatened, and I mean, we're dealing with things like defilement, we're dealing with things like rape here, who've now, masked or masqueraded as police and then carried out crimes on other
Right,
Kenyans.
but what percentage do they constitute?
The masqueraders.
They are all.
How many cases?
Yes,
Right?
I mean, is it something alarming or is it here and there?
It's been called a cause for concern. That's what it has been called. It's just been called. It's been called a cause for concern. It's not given numbers in terms of percentages.
If it features on the radar, it means that it's
something that is happening.
It's happening. Yeah.
and it's significant for it to actually register in this kind of data.
You know, we've had cases where you've even heard of these very people posing as policemen using black sheep and goats at night. I think they must muzzle them. And
As dogs.
yes,
Wow. Okay.
Using a hair. Continue the story.
black sheep, black goats. They walk with them. And in the dark, people think these are dogs.
You're kidding, right?
Why would I kid you not?
It's a kid. It is a goat. Ha! Okay. Let's.
It's been reported.
You guys have lost it.
Now, if you live in an area where it's difficult to find a dog,
He's a goat. I kid you not.
In which part of this country is it difficult to find a dog? So that you resort,
Good Lord.
you resort to looking for a
you know, the
black
problem
goat.
when you live in town, you are
In fact,
thinking of
it's easier for you to get a dog than a black goat.
yes, but you're imagining a place which is well lit. At least there's some light. Pitch darkness. It's black. How are you going to know it's a dog or a donkey or a how?
City. Wait. I can't.
And all you need to do is to have in the presence of policemen ample time to know exactly how policemen speak and how they order around. Where? That's a greeting.
So,
Kujapa.
Yes, you know exactly.
what if the goat bleats?
Muzzled.
Muscles. I forgot that very important fact.
But they give it breathing space.
All right, got it.
You can't have your dog collapsing.
Oh, yeah. And make sure it's a dehorned goat. Na fande umbo yako iko na pembe.
Hii ni umba special.
And then you get into more trouble for calling the dog dog.
You must call
Iya
the
pana
dog
umbo ina
afande.
fande.
And that's a goat or a sheep. I want you to understand that there are no limits to the imagination of Kenyans.
Wow. Okay.
I know it sounds ludicrous. Someone may think I'm making it up, but it's true.
It's been reported where?
It's in the papers.
Where?
I mean, not in the recent past, but something I've read many times. When I first came across it, I said, hey, man, some people are brave. Sheep. Then I came across a goat. I said, whoa. Okay.
All right. So, yeah, so this report would be interesting. I know, I do think, though, that it would be interesting to see what the government does with this information. Or if it's a report that's just going to gather dust yet again. Because it's not the first time we've heard. There's several groups who are collecting this information and saying that this is what is being recorded, this is what is
Actually,
being
Let's
reported
continue
in
this
this time
conversation.
period.
As we continue the conversation, let me look at the Kenya National Commission on Human Rights Act and see when they produce their reports, who's the consumer of their reports. Yeah, because this is also important. Kenya, it's here, Kenya.
And I want you to bear in mind that the consumption and the usage of such data, it's not as though all information is shelved. No. It's to what use it can be put to at a certain point in time for the benefits of those in power. Yes. If it's something that is clearly beneficial, not only...
They will shout about it.
Yeah, that's it, you've got it. They'll shout about it until they're going to implement this wonderful thing, blah, blah, blah. If it doesn't look like it's going to help, they keep quiet about it and said they are going to form a committee that is going to look into it. And then when the committee then will actually give their findings, and then they look for another body that will be set to finding ways of implementing this thing. And when you hear that, you know very well that that thing is not going to go very far because it doesn't serve any purpose that those in power consider useful to them at that point in time.
Mm-hmm.
All right.
I'm not finding that information.
Okay. So, well, for this particular, I mean, it just seems that there's a similar thread that has been running when it comes to these violations that we've been talking about. There's been an increased amount of violence. There's been an increased amount or a number of cases of defilement. There's been an increased amount or reported number of police violence against Kenyans, especially during these COVID times, whether it was because of curfew, this, that, the other thing. It has been increased, and now we have to ask ourselves, is it because a channel then has been created through which these things can thrive? You want to ask yourself the even deeper question. Does it mean that you have a society who's just waiting for opportunity to mete out violence, to violate human rights? And here as a perfect opportunity has been provided for just that. Is society geared towards that? Our agents, are agents of the state then geared towards that, geared naturally towards violence. And then any opportunity that is presented, well, we're going to take this opportunity and then run with it. And I would say that is actually something that is quite worrying. It is quite worrying because it could be the opposite. It could be. Look at the protests that are happening in the United States, for example. Who would have thought that then you have many, many, many reported cases where police and protesters are actually holding hands in friendship because they realize that the winds of change are actually blowing in their direction? You wouldn't have thought about that. You would have thought that the violence would have been increased. So you have to say, is it a time that we're looking at whereby violence and things like that and violations then are rife because that's what just society is putting out?
But also these protests have shown clearly that they are not actually targeting individuals. They are trying to find a solution to a problem that has lingered in that society for the longest time possible. And so it's not incriminating. It's not saying that if we find you, we'll lynch you today. No. Restitution that is being sought for is change. Saying, let's just bring about change. That's it. And so if someone had been considered a perpetrator or someone had been considered to be one of those groups that lean towards marginalizing blacks, whatever it is that drives them, whether it is fear, whether it is ignorance, they suddenly realize, but these fellows aren't behaving the way I am. They seem to be a little more open-minded and they're willing to embrace me. It provides for an opportunity for you to shed whatever it is that was driving in that direction and to embrace change. When the change promises to work against you or to harm you, then you'll resist it.
Yeah, you resist it. You push back.
But this change that is being advocated for, if you look at, I mean, blacks comprise 15% of those who are in the States? Yes. So what you're saying is this. They are a minority. They are a genuine minority. So because they're a minority, when this institutionalized injustice is being spoken of, the more it's spoken of, the more people realize it exists. You know, there are people who actually would be completely ignorant of this reality. Not that they're pretending.
They don't even know.
They have no clue.
They can't reconcile with what's going on, actually.
In fact, you tell them, they're wondering, what are you talking about?
What do you mean?
Here in this country, land of the free. How?
No.
And yet it's true.
Take a break. Let's take a look at the weather at 18 minutes after 7 o'clock. This is a Situation Room, Kenya's biggest conversation, broadcasting to Nairobi 94.4, Mombasa 87.9, 102.5 in Kisumu, Nakuru 96.0, 96.7 in Eldoret, 90.9 in Nyeri, Malindi 97.7, and live streaming the show on our digital platforms. Good morning.
Going to be a rainy afternoon. That's what the forecast says, at least in Nairobi. We see a high temperature today of 23 and lows of 12. Taking a look then into Nyeri, where it's touted to be a cold afternoon as well. Highs of 22 with showers expected later on. Nakuru also will experience rain showers in the afternoon with highs of 23. And in Eldoret, we're likely to see clear skies this morning, but thunderstorms predicted for the afternoon with highs of 19 and lows of 12. Kisumu is likely to be partly cloudy through the day with highs of 27. Kakamega with highs of 24 will have showers in the afternoon, whereas right now it's mostly cloudy at 16 degrees. 28 degrees is what the high will be recorded at in Malindi, with cloudy conditions through the day, currently at 26 degrees. It's light rain showers in Mombasa already at 24 degrees. The rain is likely to continue through most of the day, recorded highs of 28. And in Kampala, 18 degrees and mostly cloudy. We'll see highs of 26 today, where in Dar es Salaam, 31 degrees will be the high and mostly cloudy conditions. Johannesburg will see a low of 4 today, currently at 5 degrees. It's going to be clear skies all through, highs of 17. And finally, for now in Lagos at 25 degrees, it's partly cloudy. Thunderstorms are predicted actually to start quite soon. Highs of 28 and lows of 23.
Now there's a showdown looming in the Senate because of a new formula on division of revenue. Okay. Now, you know, the Commission on Revenue Allocation is one that comes up with a formula and says, using this formula, knowing how much money is coming to the counties, this is the formula that shall be used to actually divide the money that goes into each county. Mm-hmm. Now, they have a new formula that has been proposed. And in that formula, some 18 counties from marginalized areas are likely to lose close to 18 billion shillings cumulatively in a compromise formula for the sharing of the revenues. The new formula for sharing revenue has given proportionate consideration to a county's health status and its ability to raise revenue, unlike the current proposal that gave significance to a county's population. So you're not just looking at population now, you're also looking at what's your ability to raise the money that you want to be given? Mm. The CRA under the second formula had proposed to use 6 parameters, with population allocated the lion's share at 45%, basic shareable revenue at 26%, 18% on poverty index, and 8% based on geographical size of a county. 1% would be allocated based on the level of development in each county. But in this new formula, the health sector has been allocated a weight of 15%, as agriculture gets 10%, water 3%, all other county functions 18% respectively. The formula sharply divided senators, with those from counties with high population throwing their weight behind it, while those from the marginalized counties, as expected, would pull their weight from it, if it's the other way around. So let's look at the gainers. Gainers include Nandi County. It's going to get 1.3 billion shillings of the shareable revenue should the formula be adopted. Okay. Uasin Gishu and Nakuru increase by 1.1 billion shillings each. Big gains. Big losses here. Wajir County is going to lose 2 billion shillings based on analysis, and 314 billion of shareable revenue. Analysis of the 314 billion shillings shareable revenue. Kiambu, Kakamega gaining, Trans Nzoia gaining, Bungoma, Kirinyaga, Bomet, Pokot, Baringo, Siaya, Migori, Kericho, Busia, Machakos, Laikipia, Embu. Those that are losing: Vihiga, Tharaka Nithi, Taita Taveta, Samburu, Makueni, Kitui, Turkana, Kilifi, Narok, Kwale, Mombasa, Tana River, Garissa, Marsabit.
What was wrong with the old formula?
It's what it was looking at. So they have mandated basically to keep reviewing the formula and look at what parameters are we going to use. Because like you keep saying, if you are receiving money for because of being marginalized for the last 7 years, I mean, that should be reducing because you're now bringing you at par.
Yes.
If we are talking about the size of population and all, what weight are we giving each of these parameters? Those parameters keep changing. Remember now, these densely populated counties have been complaining. Yes, in terms of geographical size, we are small. But that small geographical size also has costs that go with it.
If you look at the old formula, you're right. Counties like Kiambu were actually losing.
Yep.
Yes.
Because of the small geographical size.
Yes.
So, and that small geographical size does not factor in that it's small geographical size but high population.
Very
Lamu
high
is a small
population.
geographical size and small population. Marsabit and Mandera, big, huge geographical
Huge
size.
chunks of land, yes.
Not comparable in population to Kiambu, for example.
Hardly.
So, those things. In terms of healthcare. So, if you're giving Kiambu X amount of money and it's catering for this huge population, what are the needs for health? Is it able then to offer health services to that huge population? So now they're trying to weigh, to bring in now that balance and say, okay, let's give health, let's also give your capacity to generate wealth. That means that your economic development as well. This is going to be a contentious push and pull, but it's a good thing. It's a good conversation to keep having, like you keep saying.
They're having it, and also the person who actually proposed it, the Makwini senator, Mutula Kilonzo, is on record as stating that he's going to propose that they make an amendment so that we reject the formula and revert to the old one that had a balance between the perceived richer and poor counties. Yes. Because he actually will come from one of those counties that will not be, which will lose if this is adopted.
Yep.
Okay.
They're likely to lose 42 million shillings.
Yes.
Not small change.
What I've always found interesting about this formula was the reward system for what you collect. It's not what they collect. What they collect may be a fairly sizable sum. What they report as being collected
Could also be a fairly sizable sum.
it is usually a paltry sum.
It's a paltry sum of...
Because if you're talking about being able to determine what they have collected, I think you should start by even understanding the potential that that county has.
Yep.
And say, this is the benchmark. Given what you do and given the activities that we know in this county,
We expect this.
scientifically you can actually estimate and know they ought to be collecting this every single week, every single month. If you don't have that, then what are you basing the collection on?
Yep.
What is it that you're balancing it? What are you pegging it to? So if they tell you that this is what they have collected, even if you say it isn't enough compared to what? So it behoves the national government to give this thing a little more thought. In my opinion, if they already haven't, knowing the government as I do, they probably have already. But that is not useful, so it's been shelved.
Yeah.
Because to be able to determine whether the collection meets the required standard, you need to know what that potential is.
And they do have that. Also, the Commission on Revenue Allocation, when it's working out this formula, it's the rest of the year, it's basically collecting data.
It is collecting data.
And looking at, all right, so this is what's happening. They use all the data from how much you collected, how much you received, what the Auditor General's report, looking at the census, looking at everything else. What is it that's happening in this county, in the whole country? What's the picture looking like in the whole country? So does our formula factor in all these things?
You know,
Heard those arguments of Kiambu people saying, why is Lamu getting so much and why is Kiambu getting so little? What is
again,
Lamu doing with all the money it's getting?
you know, that one. It's like asking someone who has 4 wives, why does he have 4 wives and what does he do with the 4 wives? It's a valid question if you're thinking of it in terms of we have more people and if we do the maths, more people will require more money for upkeep. But that is not the formula that the county was using. They were looking at other factors. As you said correctly, the concept of marginalization. These people are not as developed as some of these places, and we need to give them the push for them to develop.
So they can bring up their infrastructure. So for how long do you want to keep supporting them so they can bring up the infrastructure?
It's actually...
And where is the infrastructure? Are there any benchmarks?
And even on a yearly basis, do you see the money that you're giving? Because the money is given on a yearly basis.
Do you see it actually
Are you seeing the improvement in infrastructure?
Are you seeing the effects of this application of these funds across counties? Are you seeing developments of infrastructure? Are you seeing things happening, roads being built, being maintained, being redone, kind of thing?
I was talking to some 2 individuals who were commissioners in the Commission for Revenue Allocation, and they told me some fairly interesting stories. They're saying that they had, I'm giving this as an example, they had gone to Wajir. And one of the things that they found, the previous governor had built an assembly hall some 40 kilometers away from the town itself. Nobody went there. Nobody.
He was building a new town, basically.
Yeah, nobody went there. Now, it could very well be the area he comes from. So, throughout the day, where you might find people is the previous town hall. But more so, there is a hotel within Wajir. I think it's called the Hilton or the Intercontinental, one of the two names. So, when they wanted to have meetings with all these people, they actually had to have these meetings in this hotel. Because that's where you'd find them. Now, the bit that I found particularly interesting was when you talk about sharing revenue or when you talk about allocating resources in the community, said they have a formula which works for them. The money is divided according to the clans, equitably. So you cannot say your clan was left out because people judge development clan by clan. It is not the whole county.
Yeah.
No, it's not county. So did we get our share?
Yes.
Have you done what you're supposed to do? Then they tell you, Nani, it's our part
It's our
of
money.
So it's our part of the whatever. And then of interest, he said that very many people who are considered leaders in some of those places actually commute on a daily basis.
From where to?
From Nairobi to...
Wajir.
To Wajir.
Yes. Oh, we have flight, by the way.
Wilson
Wilson
to
if you are...
every morning and evening.
And back. If you look at the flights that emanate from Wilson Airport and that go to the Wajir specifically, you'll be surprised. There are many. So, why am I giving this as an example? I'm giving this as an example of understanding the uniqueness of each county and how it is that even this money that you talk of and how it can benefit. And this is why perhaps a county government is a good entity to have because they will actually, you cannot say that this is money given by somebody else. And no, it's your county, it's your governor.
Yeah.
And as a clan, as a community, whatever it is, you're the ones who elected him. But they also choose how they feel they should receive the money. And when it's done, they have no problem.
Everybody's happy.
Everybody is happy.
Well, everybody who has influence is happy.
Everybody who is related to somebody who has influence
Is also happy.
Is also happy. 28 minutes to 8. Shall we take a quick break? Take a look at traffic and then this conversation continues. Good morning.
All right. It looks like not much to report today, except from the normal things that we'll see. We will see that traffic on Mombasa Road today, and it's going to take us a while to get off of that. It's very slow on Waiyaki Way. It starts at the Uthiru Junction towards Nairobi, and that is going very slowly this morning, then trying to get into Westlands. Not to forget that the Red Hill bypass can be used as well. It's going to take you longer, but it'll get you there, and you don't have to sit through the pains of traffic. All right, coming off of Langata Road also, you might experience a little bit of traffic here and there. You should be fine though getting into the CBD as you go through it. All right, and in the CBD, right around Kenyatta Avenue, Wabera Street, there seems to be some hold up because there was a slight accident. So if it's affecting traffic in other feeder roads, unfortunately. All right, but apart from that, there's nothing major. Traffic seems to be flowing smoothly in different parts. If it does get a little bit wonky in your neck of the woods, do let us know. Spice FMKE, that's how you can reach us on Twitter.
This is the only morning radio show in the country that reflects the conversations happening in the country, in Africa, in the world. Lest we forget, there's a DJ who was shot allegedly, because now this is a legal matter, allegedly by an MP at a club in Nairobi. DJ Evolve.
Yeah.
What's the latest on him?
So he went home a couple of days ago, about a week or so, was released to go home. However, he's still not walking. And according to this story and how it is reported in The Nation today, hours before Felix Orinda, alias DJ Evolve, spoke for the first time since he was allegedly shot by Embakasi East MP Babu Owino 6 months ago. This happened 6 months ago. The controversial legislator was busy lighting fires on his social media page. In his usual cantankerous tone, the MP took down anyone who attempted to remind him about DJ Evolve's shooting, while shouting to the world about how it is the least of his worries, despite the attempted murder charges he is facing. "Stop pushing for your funeral," the MP replied to one of his followers, who had called him a future sharpshooter. When another mentioned his attempted murder case, Owino retorted, "Publicity is publicity." This is how things have been for Mr. Owino on the internet since January, when he was allegedly shot. When he allegedly shot the DJ on a Saturday morning at the upscale B Club along Galana Road in Nairobi. If he is not boasting about his achievements, he is either firefighting claims of attempted murder or lighting fires. For Mr. Orinda, however, the last 6 months have been hell. Once a fast-rising DJ plying his trade in one of the most popular nightclubs in the capital, the DJ who appeared in the media on Monday night was weak, unable to do anything for himself, and is now depending on God for justice. "I cannot move my hands past unfolding my fingers. So when I do not have them, I cannot do much, as they were my tools of trade," he said with difficulty, aided by a device connected to his throat. "The last 6 months have been hell. There's nothing I can do for myself. I was really traumatized in the beginning, but I have learned to live with it," he said. "I left that to God, and I'm waiting for the justice system to see what next." The internet immediately went ablaze. Predictably, the security and judicial systems, which had for the last 6 months forgotten about DJ Evolve's case, swung into action. Public interest raised, and the Director for Public Prosecutions asked the judiciary to fast-track the hearing date, citing public interest. In the evening, officers from the Kilimani Directorate of Criminal Investigations, led by their boss, Fatuma Hadi, visited the DJ, who is currently under the care of his mother and nurses at the Tome Estate in Nairobi. Asked about their mission, Ms. Hadi said it was related to the case.
Hey. So there's been this push for justice for DJ Evolve, right? Justice for DJ Evolve will come in very many ways. First of all, the man clearly has spent the last 6 months in hospital. The man is still paralyzed. He's unable to speak clearly, apart from that aid that has been attached to his throat. There's something that's happening. And then the Republic is looking at one man and pinning it all on this one man, Babu Owino. All right? So as we talk about everything else, let's also remember there's justice for Babu Owino, that he also deserves a right to fair trial. But then, in the court of public opinion, Babu Owino is guilty. In the court of public opinion. In the proper judicial system, the process has not even begun, because the ODPP is saying, look, this case has not even been able to commence because the investigating officer has not taken a statement as required from the victim, DJ Evolve. He was in hospital. Investigating officer could not speak to him. Since then, he has come out of hospital. The man cannot write. So the investigating officer cannot tell him, all right, so sign here. This is your statement. He could not even be able to talk. So basically, the case, that's what the ODPP is saying. This case has not been able to move because already we are waiting for him.
They kindly look for another excuse.
This one doesn't work?
This one, not even remotely. In this day and age of technology, he doesn't need to be able to physically write for a statement to be written.
No, he doesn't.
If he can speak, believe me,
it's more than enough.
That's it.
So this is what the ODPP was tweeting yesterday, okay? So first of all, they say the prosecution of Babu Owino over attempted murder of DJ Evolve has been slowed down by the inability of the victim to record a statement following the shooting, which affected his speech, okay? So according to the investigating officer, the man has been paralyzed and has a speech impediment. A diligent follow-up by the investigating officer has found that the man cannot record a statement, but went to try and record a statement from him, found him in pain and overwhelmed due to the extraneous process that is taking a statement. It was unwise to take a statement at that point. The investigation officer was advised to wait for the DJ's condition to improve. We are happy at the progress that the DJ has made and will use this opportunity to record a statement as soon as possible.
Good. That, as it's stated, makes sense.
So far, basically it's an explanation. So far, one of the reasons why we have not even been able to do anything is because we have not been able to get a statement from this gentleman.
You know why Babu Oweno's case, forget his utterances and forget his self-incriminating behavior. Forget that. It was recorded.
Yep.
It's recorded. So unless you're saying that's not what really happened, this was just play acting, and what really happened was this, it's recorded.
So it brings us to the issue of, yes, there's pursuit of justice for DJ Evolve.
What is the justice that DJ Evolve should use? What is it?
What is it that, even if we say like we are taking them through the process and the MP is charged with attempted murder, the man is still going to need a lot of time to recover and recuperate, and hopefully
his life is never going to be the same again.
Hopefully he comes back to at least a point where he can move his hands, like he says, his tool of trade.
That's his tool of trade. He is never going to be the same again.
So what is the best justice then?
What will this justice look like?
What would it look like that would be enough to get to say, all right, this happened to me and it changed my life in this manner. So then if justice is expended, what really is enough? Is there anything that is enough to take you back to the way that you were? I'm sorry, but I don't see it. I don't see it here that,
It's like if he died, there would be no justice because you can't bring him back to life.
Sure.
But there would be something, that a semblance of justice in terms of the person who's culpable being held to account for it. There's also the issue of this matter being highly publicized. All those things are justice by themselves.
What the media has reported as being Mr. Ongile's response to this seemed to point at this, that he's unrepentant.
Arrogant.
He's arrogant.
That is what turns the public ire against him.
Yep.
Had the man been repentant and remorseful, the whole spin would have been different. It would have been even looked at differently. That this gentleman was shot, there's no question about it. So it's not alleged shooting, he was shot. How he was shot, intentions behind it, that's where the story begins. Did he intend to shoot him? Why would he shoot him? Was he in the habit of discharging his firearm in public? Is it something he had done before?
Yep.
And
had it been reported? Was there action taken?
There are all these things that need to be looked into.
Now, let's come then to the issue of integrity, Leadership and Integrity Act, Public Officer Ethics Act, all these things of what we expect of our leaders. Right? We have gone ahead and written the shortest chapter in our Constitution, chapter 6, and talked about leadership and integrity.
Yes.
Then we've gone ahead and enacted various pieces of legislation that touch on this leadership and integrity and how we expect public officers to conduct themselves, and state officers as well, to conduct themselves. Those that earn a salary from the exchequer, how they should conduct themselves. It is very clear. A public officer, for example, shall not behave in a manner likely to suggest that they are unruly and they don't really care about the law. They shall conduct themselves both publicly and privately in a manner that brings respect to their office. If we have all these laws, we expect that even political parties would have the same kind of thing. So like his party, ODM, would have this kind of what we expect of you. If you're a member of this party, especially if you're a member who has been elevated to a leadership position in this party, this is what the minimums that we expect of you.
Especially, what we are saying is that if there exists a disciplinary committee within the party,
you should have been brought before it by now.
What exactly do we expect? Do we say that we shall wait until the court process clears you and says that you are guilty or not? Or shall we just look at, okay, so what happened? You carried the firearm into a nightclub. All right. So your firearm was discharged in a nightclub. It's yours. It was discharged. Whether it was you who discharged it or not, immaterial at this point. The conduct and the kind of disrepute that you brought to the party by the virtue of the office that you hold is this.
Is enough
and
for you to
therefore,
have been censured.
Come and sit here and we're going to have a conversation with you. Should we expect such kind of things? I mean, those are the irreducible
but
minimums.
we must.
But I think when you
irreducible
look at
minimum.
when you look at it and you're holding them then against the bar of morality and integrity, it goes without saying that such things should have happened by now. It doesn't matter who you are. It doesn't matter what name you bear. There's certain things that it is alleged that you have done, or if you have behaved in a certain manner, and we're holding you against the light of this kind of integrity, then absolutely should have been called, should have been censured, should have been asked questions in terms of what is going on here. Should there have been some kind of disciplinary action that has been meted then against you while the court process is going on? 100% absolutely. Because guess what? In the absence of that, basically what are you telling Kenyans? That there's certain lives that you can take, there's certain ways in which you can behave.
You're actually
There's
saying
certain
you condone
yes,
this guy's
there's certain
behavior.
ways that you can behave then that are okay. And that you're saying it is fine that you do that. Without saying anything, without a statement having not been made publicly, without any kind of censure having taken place, you're basically saying that it's all right. Go then ahead and go ye then forth and behave in whichever way you want to. But because you have this label of leader or political, whatever it is that you want to call it, then you can behave in any way that you want. And if the victims happen to be poor, innocent, lowly Kenyans, even better, because it doesn't matter, and they're not in a position whereby they can hold you to book. Very wrong. Very wrong. And we're condoning it. Every day it's being condoned. And guess what? You know what? This man had been forgotten.
Yep.
It's just that he was released from hospital and then somebody put a microphone in front of him and said, all right, tell us how you're doing.
Yep.
And then suddenly we hear DCI going back to ask questions. All right, how actually, let's see if we can pick this up again and get it going. Had it been somebody else, had it been a layman,
would have been dragged
this
through the
thing
coals.
would have been through the process very, very quickly.
Oh, yes.
And it is wrong. If that is the message that you're putting out there to the people that are supposed to be protected, it is wrong.
First, let's start with a layman would not have been able to raise 10 million shillings.
In the first
bail.
place.
Right?
Oh, by the way, please remember the details of that bail. It was
Bail in installments.
yes, unheard of, but there we are. There we are.
It's all about how we, conduct ourselves as a society
Actually, you're talking about the underbelly
and the minimums that we should expect of ourselves.
You talk about the underbelly, and you talk about social protection. What happens when a supposed leading member of the political party, a leading member of society, is accused of having committed something whether it was accidental or not, that is a different matter.
Yeah.
But he is connected, and it is alleged that it is him. Now, the allegation is further strengthened by pictorial evidence.
Yeah.
So now, if there's a case that we haven't heard much of, one could argue it's moving. It's this one. And yet, this is a young person's life at stake here.
But who should we be expecting action from? So we can look at, is it political party? Is it...
All.
Because
All of them.
the legal justice system is happening, right? That wheel is moving. It's moving slowly,
At
but
the
it's
pace it
moving.
normally moves.
That's happening. Now, this other side of holding somebody to account, ethics, leadership, and integrity, who is it that we should be expecting action
It's
from?
your political party, really.
I think it starts from
Absolutely.
the political party.
It's your
It goes
political
from that
party.
point of the political party itself saying, look, you are our member. When you're out there, you're representing us and our ideals. Okay? Let's have this conversation with you. You come, face the disciplinary committee, explain yourself, then let's look at this, and we shall also guide you on this is what we expect you to do. This kind of behavior that you're saying that he's exhibiting now, showing arrogance and callousness and all, this is something that the party could easily rein him in
Yes,
on.
but remember, this behavior did not start with the
this
shooting
case.
of DJ Evolve. He's been associated with this behavior from the time he was in the university.
Yep.
It's a continuum. The last time we heard of a disciplinary committee meeting was in the ANC party. And they were meeting to put to task the senator for Kakamega County. Yes.
What is he being accused of again?
I'm not very certain.
Oh, he's associating
It's
himself
becoming
with
a question
ODM.
of what has he not been.
It's actually he's
until
associating
now.
himself with ODM and not ANC. So
Yeah, but
therefore,
that one has gone completely south, has it not?
it's a whole different ballgame.
I-
But the
it's-
point is that the political parties have disciplinary committee.
But they all do.
Even ODM, actually, they sat and censured the MP for Malindi.
No, forget that one. In an earlier time, when in Migori there was an ODM office that was being officially opened, there was some fracas where visitors received a profound beating because ODM leaders,
Visitors from where?
ODM luminaries who had gone to Migori, people hid under tables, people took off in their cars because young rowdy men entered the arena and started whipping people. Differences. The governor of Migori was called in to the disciplinary committee. They have a disciplinary committee.
Why would this happen under your watch?
I mean, not even under his watch.
So it appears that the political party only deals with the political matters.
He was
See
being
something like
actually
that?
It would
yes.
appear
Opening
so.
of office,
It would
and
appear
then this
so.
happened. Aisha Jumwa, you're associating yourself with the Jubilee luminaries, so this is also going wrong. Political matters, but when it comes to ethics, integrity,
the ethics here
was-
integrity, character, behavior,
those things,
not important.
Actually,
the more rowdy you are, the better you are for us.
well, you're talking about rowdiness. The rowdiness in Migori was classic. But, I mean, I have never come across a situation where party members turn on other party members who are your visitors to your county and they all receive a sound beating. For the
What was the problem? I mean, what's wrong with coming to open a party?
just
office?
rivalries within
Oh, you
the
guys
party.
support my
And there was a
rival.
feeling at that particular point in time that the governor was pro the government
Okay,
and not fully in ODM. And yet, he had won on an ODM ticket.
okay.
Okay? So it escalated. And he was called in and he was fined. Okay? Now, usually, this can lead to an expulsion from the party. Now, that makes things very tricky for you. Okay? Because if you're expelled from the party, then it probably means that you might face a by-election.
True.
Yes. So all I'm saying is they exist, disciplinary committees.
Mechanisms.
Yes, in every party. Every party has one. Remember, there was this individual who rushed to the registrar of political parties to register New Jubilee.
Asili.
Asili.
Yes.
The party wasn't registered because the registrar found that they had not met all the requirements. I think one of the requirements that must be seen when you hand in your application is whether you have A, B, C, D. One of these things that every party must have is the disciplinary committee. The most notorious disciplinary committee we had was in Kanu. If someone did not like you and they had more power than you, went to the disciplinary committee.
Straight.
Yes. And with dire consequences. They were known, and the people who were in that disciplinary committee were also known. Yes. So, disciplinary committees have always existed. And they
So this
exist.
is what we expect to see ODM doing with their leader and member,
This is what should happen.
Babu Owino.
This
This is what
case
should happen.
This
should be sitting
this isn't
before
a
a disciplinary
mild
committee.
case that you wish away.
And the party should be dictating to him. This, first of all, these are the charges that we have against you, and because we see how you behave, A, B, C, D, and E, F, G, H, and there are laws to
By the way, did the
to guide
government
that.
withdraw his firearm?
We don't know.
You see, that should have been in the
License,
public
right?
domain. Yes, no, you
The
withdraw
particular-
the firearm
The-
and the license.
The particular firearm maybe is part of evidence and all.
Probably is, yes.
Probably,
but all,
but
all I'm
we
saying
don't know.
is it should have been the public domain because
Probably is.
that thing is given for your protection.
Probably is. Maybe we've just missed it. In terms of
Let's give it
the reporting.
Let's say we missed it.
Yeah,
and
benefit
leave it
of the
at that.
doubt, right?
Yes, let's say we missed
License
it. and leave it at
itself, maybe also, maybe withdrawn, maybe not.
But you know, guys, we're teeter-tottering here on a very dangerous line.
that. Precipice.
Very, very dangerous, because we're basically saying that it is all right so long as you're in a position of power, position of leadership in this country, that you can do whatever the hell you want. As far as almost taking away somebody's life, as far as, and then after that, it's not just that. That on its own is as morbid as it comes. Then beyond that, you're then above reproach, which, you have to ask yourself, okay, these are the people that we're going to continue putting into position of leadership. Because you can say it's one case, one isolated case. But what it does is that it represents other leadership, whether you like it or not. It puts a tint on other leadership. It colors the image. It colors the waters. It really, really does. And those are the people that you're going to look up to tomorrow and say, yeah, these are the leaders of the nation.
You know,
is that
for
what
the
you want?
longest
Is that
time,
what you want out there?
Unfortunately, disciplinary committees seemed to have acquired for themselves the reputation for actually being the sort of body whose function was to get rid of people who are not liked by certain strong members of the party. Not actually for disciplining. No.
It's just for settling scores.
Yes, that's it.
If you want to settle a political score with somebody, take them to the disciplinary committee. They lose the support of the party. Then, therefore, their nomination
Is
rescinded, and they lose their seat. That's it. It's a political tool, a weapon. It's the same thing that we've seen. Even in that case, you're talking about the governor and the MP for Malindi. It's basically just using it as a whip. We can remove our sponsorship of you to Parliament.
Yes, and once we do...
And once you do, you know. Either you have to go back and campaign, spend a lot of money campaigning, you stand a chance of losing. I mean, nothing is guaranteed from their point going on. But a disciplinary committee, in terms of this is what the party stands for. All right? This is who we are. This is what we stand for as a party. And we expect that all of you should abide by what we've all together collectively agreed as our ideals. Those, we don't hear about them. We need to start demanding the same of political parties and saying, look, come on, party leader Baba, you're recuperating in, where is he?
Middle East.
In the Middle East, yes. But the other party organs are still here. Chairman is here. Secretary General of the party is here. The deputy party leaders are here. Do something about this.
You know, when you look at the leadership, let's go to the university for a while. Huh? What was just basically student politics. And remember, there was a time when the real opposition in the country was actually university students.
Yeah.
They are the ones who, yes, I'm talking about after multipartyism went south in the country, the only people who consistently would point to things were university
students.
Yes. Now, the metamorphosis that has taken place, university student leadership is often a reflection of the political parties that we have in this country.
Yep.
Political parties sponsor certain individuals within the university. So political party politics is taken to our universities. It's no longer a student affair. It's not.
It's fertile breeding ground. And I can understand when a political party is basically going to universities, because these are people
those numbers
who,
are many.
at that point, and also at that point in their youthful life, they are active, they're engaged, they are, more aware
and they're
of
also
things.
susceptible to influence.
Completely. So it's a very good breeding ground for political parties to go and harvest. Okay. However, there's still what you stand for as a party, and say, so we are inculcating these ideals and standards throughout your years as you rise up the ranks of the party. So when you get to a point where we are sponsoring you to vie in Embakasi as an MP and we're giving you the party ticket, we know that you've gone through all that. You understand what this party stands for. You understand the do's and don'ts. You know that if you do this, this shall be gross violation of the party's constitution or gross violations of the party's rules, and you stand.
If parties were actually serious about how the rest of the country saw them when it came to issues of integrity and character and morals, then it would go without question that somebody within your party behaved in a certain way, you would call them to book. If they were serious about the way the country or the people saw them, they would take this very seriously. So it goes to show they're not.
Right now, I'm sure the leadership of the party, as they're looking at all these tweets and they're looking at people complaining and people even in the media talking about Babu, they are not seeing themselves in that. They're saying that is Babu. In terms of Babu is a member of this party, that's Babu. Treat him individually.
Or that's Babu and his party.
That is Babu, yeah. He's not a member of our party. We're coming up to 8 o'clock. Keep it right here. The conversation continues on our social media handles. Remember, you can also have this conversation on our Instagram handle, Spice FM KE. In the next hour, we go to the Democratic Republic of Congo. They're celebrating their independence.
Yes.
And at the same time, we have seen the King of Belgium releasing a statement in which he regretted what happened during the colonial years, during the Belgian government's rule in the DRC, and also before that, during King Leopold's rule in the DRC, where it was his own plot somewhere in Africa, and he was running it. But then, should we be expecting an apology from the government of Belgium on this, on the atrocities committed on their former colony, the DRC, and other colonies around the world? That's a conversation we'll be having shortly. Good morning. It's 8 o'clock.
Not too crazy this morning. Certain parts of Mombasa Road still her inbound at close to Cabanas today is bumper to bumper. It's actually chocker blocked. We expect to see this for about the next hour or so. So if you're in there, you need to hang tight, guys. You'll get out of it soon enough. Looking at other parts on Thika Road, the traffic situation from Allsops to Survey to Muthaiga is moving very slowly, but it's moving all the same. We're not at a standstill there just yet. You'll be able to get into the CBD without too much of a problem and maybe not having to wait for too long. So those are the two hot spots that we are seeing in the city right now. Thika Road, Mombasa Road, usual suspects for this time of the morning. You'll get out of it soon enough. Spice FMKE, that's how you can reach us on Twitter. In case something major happens and we need to warn people, then we ask that you please let us know.
This is The Situation Room, the home of hard-hitting political commentary and penetrating insights about the state of the nation. This is a talk radio experience like no other. The Situation Room, a place for hard truths, debates, and elevated conversations. The Situation Room, witty, political, engaging, deep, controversial. In the room, we have C.T.
2
Muga,
minutes
researcher,
after 8 o'clock.
academic,
This is a
seasoned
situation.
political
Kenya's
observer,
biggest
a
conversation,
fountain of wisdom in
reflecting
these politically
conversations in
uncertain
Kenya, in
times.
Africa, and
New
the
Oko,
entire world.
Nigeria.
What's happening? This is what we discussed this morning and every other morning between 6 a.m. and 10 a.m. We broadcast across the country, 94.4 in Nairobi, 87.9 in Mombasa, 102.5 in Kisumu, 96.0 in Nakuru, 96.7 in Eldoret, 90.9 in Nyeri, Malindi, 97.7. We also live stream the show to everybody in the world on www.spicefm.co.ke as well as SpiceFMKE on Facebook, YouTube, and Twitter. Let's talk about the Democratic Republic of Congo and start it from this point. Belgian king expresses deepest regrets for brutal colonial rule. King Philippe of Belgium has expressed his deepest regrets for acts of violence and brutality inflicted during the country's rule over Congo as the DRC marked 60th anniversary of its independence. The letter to the DRC President Félix Tshisekedi has been described as historic in the Belgian media, as it is the first time a Belgian king has expressed regret for the country's colonial past, although it stops short of an apology. And that is where now the conversation happened. So, was that enough? It's not an apology. It's basically the king himself writing to the president and expressing deepest regrets. In the letter, the king writes of painful episodes of the two countries' shared history, referring to the Congo Free State run by his ancestor Leopold II, whose brutal exploitation of the territory is estimated by some to have caused the deaths of 10 million people and has become the subject of fierce debate amid the Black Lives Matter protests. Now we've seen, because of this Black Lives Matter, the number of things have happened also in Belgium, where statues of the colonial era have been brought down. Statues of King Leopold have been brought down because of what the king did in Africa and the other colonies, especially in this one, the Congo Free State. Now, was that enough? Was that not? is it not a good sign that a king himself actually goes ahead and writes at this particular point, writes to the president and says, we have a shared history, your people and our people. We have a shared history. However, there are very many blots in this shared history. And I'm expressing deep regrets. There are those that are saying, that's a start point. I mean, you start by expressing deep regrets by, first of all, that's an acknowledgement by the head of state, acknowledging what we've done, what has happened. The next steps would be now going into, so what would it mean? Do we need to get to a point where we are seeking
it's called reparations.
Do we need to get to a point where we are actually asking for a public apology directly, one-on-one?
On the face of it, it would look fantastic in terms of what is being said here from King Felipe. It would look great as King Felipe has done this. However, there were several opportunities in the past to have even started this conversation. And as from what I see, it's just a bump in the road. The road continues. It doesn't mean that anything is going to change significantly because this regret has been expressed. Like you said, it does everything but fall short of an apology. An apology was not made. Even if an apology was made, it was not going to be seen as enough. The question also arises, had George Floyd not been murdered, would this regret then have been expressed? Because this is where it's all coming from. That an inquiry has been put. Inquiry has been put together, commission has been set up because King Philippe has decided that racism is not something that they're going to condone or consider ever as far as his administration is concerned. And while we're at it, let me say that I regret whatever happened in DRC. You had decades to say this. It never came up. The people of Congo, people of DRC rather, have been crying out for some kind of acknowledgement of the fact that terrible things happened for which they are still seeing the results of today, to date, in terms of how the country is being run when it comes to the economics, in terms of the development of the people, in terms of the use of their natural resources. Still one of the richest countries in the world when it comes to natural resources. But people continue to suffer because of a direct effect of what happened because of the rule of Leopold. So suddenly, George Floyd is murdered in the US.
Yes.
And then you realize, okay, we too are going to jump on this anti-racism train. And while we're at it, I'm going to register my regret about what happened in DRC.
Also, suddenly, because of George Floyd, we have seen the kind of conversation that's happening in Belgium, where these statues are being brought down, where we have having protests, right? And
the defacing of statues of Leopold.
But they were there all this time. Nobody talked about them before.
Yes, but now that it's happening, we can't say, for all those years, how come this never happened? It's happening now.
Please remember that there is a generation that may be completely ignorant of that history. When I say ignorant, I mean genuinely ignorant of that history. Or what they know of is distorted. But when confronted with this reality, they say, what?
Yep.
You mean this is what actually happened?
Then we must do this.
Ha. And they move into action.
Yep.
King Philippe was aware, however. All right, so let's take
Not Philippe.
He's the one who has registered
I'm not even
his
referring
regret.
to Philippe. I'm referring to his countrymen who have been protesting and defacing statues and monuments of his forebears.
And demanding action from the current head of state and government.
It was push from within his own country.
All right, let's take this conversation a little bit deeper then. And we're going to talk this morning with Professor Dadi Saleh. And he is in Goma in the Democratic Republic of Congo and a political commentator and a lecturer when it comes to political affairs. And we're joined on the line by him this morning. Professor Saleh, good morning.
Good morning.
Good morning.
How are you?
Very well, thank you. You're in the Situation Room this morning with myself, Nduoko, Eric Latif, and Siti Muga.
Good morning, Professor.
Yeah, good morning. How are you?
We're well.
We are well, thank you. And thank you for coming to the show.
The conversation has already started, and we're asking ourselves the questions already and saying, all right, regret has been expressed from the Kingdom of Belgium, as it were. This is all. Yesterday was 60th anniversary of DR Congo's independence. It's not lost on us that this announcement was made on the same day, or this regret was made on the same day. What do you think then about this statement that was made by King Philippe?
Yeah, actually, first of all, I think it's really coming so late, and it's not enough at all. I think at this moment, that's not really what Congolese people want. And I think we should have some actions and have some concrete consideration. You know, it has been a bad moment for the DRC, and I think Belgian people should understand that Africans and the Congolese people are suffering. That's true. And we are responsible. It's a fact. But they are also responsible in a way or another because psychologically there is a problem. And they are still, at this moment, being just like, they are considering themselves as the father of, how do you call it, public or diplomacy of the DRC. Even so many presidents are taken just because they have an end with Belgian people. It means if we consider another part, this what the king has said is good, but these are just talk. You get me?
Yep.
We need, for example, they took a lot of things into their museum. We have a lot of things from Congo, from DRC. We have to get those things back. But there is a point where so many people don't put their hand. They don't talk about. They also have so many things into their bank. Gold, diamond, and so on. Yeah, that's seen as a joke. Do you know why it seems as a joke? Just because people are just like, oh, we cannot talk about that. No, they took a lot of gold for nothing. You get me? For nothing. And now, people are saying Belgian people they can just give back things from museum. No, they have to give back so many things. Okay, psychologically, as I said, concerning education, okay, they have to change the history which is into their book.
Yeah.
Their history, which they're teaching their people, is wrong. As you can see, whatever they're teaching to people right now. I think one of you said that, okay, so many people are ignorant of what happened. That's true. Just because they have been teaching liars.
Yep.
I think at this moment, it's really a fact, and I'm okay with Black Lives Matter. I've even have an activity with them here in Goma, I think some weeks ago. Okay, just 1 week or with 2 weeks with Black Lives Matter and some people called African Americans for Africa. Okay, that's the organization. And it's a long fight. It's a good process. And what the king has done, actually, either we want it or not, it's actually a good step. Just to apologize, but it's not at all enough.
So, but
not enough at all.
if you look at it, Professor, now this is an apology, not an apology, but rather an expression of regret coming from the head of state. The first time in the 60 years since the DRC got independence, it's the first time that the government of Belgium is acknowledging what it did during the years that it colonized the DRC. Is that not a good starting point for then the next steps to take place? Because yes, I hear you saying that you want reparation, you want us to review the education system and how the stories have been told about what happened in the DRC. You'd like the things that have been taken away from DRC returned. You want all those things to happen, but those things must follow a process, I can imagine. Is this not a good point where we're saying the head of state himself has actually written to your president and said, we regret what we did?
I don't really get the real question.
My question is, I hear you saying that it's not enough. It's coming a bit too late.
Yeah.
But I'm also saying, yes, I agree with you. It's not enough. It may be coming a bit too late. But is it not a good starting point then to move the conversation to where you'd like the conversation to go? In terms of getting an apology, getting reparations.
Yeah, I get the point. It's a good start, but only if we could have some leaders who can take the second step. And I hope that we have some leaders. I'm not confident that because so many of our leaders, I'm telling the truth, depend on them. And I'm wondering if they're going to take the second step. Okay, that's what we'd like, to have the second and the third step, okay, and have everything. We have to take ourselves as, how could I call it? As no one is superior, okay?
Yep.
We are all human beings, okay? Yeah, we are all equal. Let's take a small point. At this moment, Africans and Congolese people, we are paying debt, isn't it? We are paying so many debts from Europe, from America, and so on. And someone of you said, okay, maybe this is a new generation. Even the king, Philip, is coming just from a new generation, isn't it? Yeah, but at least also those debts we are paying even right now. We are not the one who took them. I don't know if you get the point. As I said, I'm not an English speaker. I'm just trying my best.
You're communicating very effectively, very well, Professor.
I hope so. Okay, it means this is administration. It's a process, and we have to take responsibility of whatever happened. Even if it's your grandpa who did that, now you are responsible because you are also responsible of the benefits. Belgium are responsible of the benefits.
That's very
it means
true.
They have to take up. They have also to be responsible of what happened.
The government of Belgium, I think the Parliament of Belgium, has established a Truth and Reconciliation Commission to look back at what the government of Belgium did during those years of the colonial period. What do you make of that commission that is reviewing what exactly the kind of atrocities that are committed by Belgian nationals in those years?
As I said, I don't have confidence in Belgium. This is really a fact, and scientifically speaking, it can be proven. I don't know if we can have confidence. It's not a question of having confidence. It's their Belgian parliament. They're going to work as Belgium, and we hope that they're going to do a good job and tell the story as it was. And so many people, more than a billion people, have been killed. We have been having this sex abuse. We have been having so many bad things, humiliated and suffered from our body. Okay, it means I hope that they're gonna do that job, that parliament commission. Sorry, but I think African leaders, and especially for this case, Congolese leaders, should take that as our own point and oblige them to do what we want, not only what we want, but to tell the good story. I think we should have a kind of, how shall I put it? We have to be proactive. We don't have to wait so much from that commission. I think it's, as you know, they have been pushed even by the UN. We had this UN commission, which almost obliged the Belgium to apologize. Because this apology comes from far, really from far. I know what I'm saying. I cannot have confidence on them, but we can put them to tell the story and to do what we would like to. Or we can have this, we can call, to balance things. Can you remove all the African debt or Congolese debt and we have a new start? American or European, we have to have this new start with Africa. We cannot consider any more Africans as the second human beings. It means human beings we cannot consider. If you take decisions from the UN and even UN organizations, you're going to exactly see that we still have this racism. We still have this no consideration. We are just like even the economy. They are the one fixing all the pricing. If you get the point, if you take gold, if you take diamond, they're still the one fixing prices. Even if we are the one possessing those things, it's not acceptable. I think our leaders should really negotiate for our people instead of negotiating for these big companies from America.
Professor, can I ask you a question? Can Can I ask you a question, please?
Yes. Go ahead, sir.
Do you know of any Congolese group or people who have ever sought to take the Belgian government to the International Court to seek reparation for these atrocities that they committed on the people? Have the Congolese people ever taken the Belgian government to court?
I think I know our side, the service society, the service society, who tried, but I think the request was not received. If I'm not wrong, but I may check again and see if there is an organization. And if there isn't anyone, I promise to you, in less than a year, we're going to do it.
Okay.
When this letter was sent to your President Felix Tshisekedi, was it made public? Did the president come out to say, I have received this letter from the King of Belgium, and as a government, we are going to take these next steps as a response?
Yeah, I know. What the question exactly?
What the president's reaction to the letter has been?
Okay. At this moment, it was yesterday, and as you know, at this moment, I don't know. He just said he received the letter, but we are expecting to have some news today and see what the Congolese government's reaction. Let's hope that we'll have some news today. Officially, he just said thanks, but officially, he didn't yet respond.
And just before this, then, has there been any conversation in your parliament or by your government on what needs to be done for to ensure that the people of DRC receive justice for the atrocities that are meted out on their ancestors by the Belgians?
From whatever I know, no. Unfortunately, reason why we are also struggling to say, do we really have a parliament which is really working with people? And I think we should really push them. At this moment, they are fighting. They have a fight between the parliament and the president.
Yeah,
this is the fight which is actually into our country right now. And I don't know. Last year, there isn't any. We didn't see any intervention in such a way from our parliament. And now we are at the second exercise, which going to start very soon. I don't know if that point is even written, into their book, if they're going to talk about that. I don't think so, unfortunately.
On the face of it, Saleh, on the face of it, would you say that the Congolese government is a friend of the Belgian government?
Unfortunately, that's what it seems to be. You don't have to. We have to mention that our new president has taken a long time in Belgium. Normally, he was supposed to be also Belgium, either him or his wife. It means I'm not saying that the Belgium, but I know that he has so many roots. From Belgium, he has so many friends from Belgium. I don't know if he's going to be able, and that's what we expect, to use at least his knowledge and his friends to take this for the advantage of Congolese people. I don't know if you get the point.
I get that. So I'm just hearing off the top, and I mean, from some reaction that we already see, even after this announcement was made yesterday, because of the fact that it would be seen that the current president is a friend of the Belgian government, that there already is a kind of fear and anxiety that they will accept this apology, much to the chagrin of the people of Congo, who would then say that is not enough. So there's the fear that the apology will be accepted and things will go on as normal.
Regret.
Oh, sorry. There's the fear that the statement of regret will be accepted as an apology and that people will then go on, as normal. So there's that fear amongst people. Would you say that's the same thing?
Yeah, unfortunately, as I said, we have two ways, hypotheses. Either that's the way it's going to take. Unfortunately, that we have a high probability that we just accept the apology and then things just continue like there right now. It means killing of people in Beni and in DRC, and the stealing of gold and mineral with our authority. This is one way. The second hypothesis is now, if he can use his position, it can be possible because he's coming actually from his dad, who is has been one of the biggest leaders in DRC. And we think is one of people who could say he loved and he could work for Congolese people. Now, we don't know if his son gonna really understand and work for Congolese people. It means push the Belgium to really act and take the second and third step so that we can regain our humanity and our strength. Everything is still possible, but unfortunately, the highest probability is just we have this. Okay, we accept your apology, and then unfortunately the life continues just like it is.
Like it has. Okay. So
Yeah.
a lot has also been blamed to look at the inability of DRC to develop to the levels that many Congolese would have wished they would have, especially with the vast minimal resources that are available. The blame has been put on colonizers, specifically Belgium, that holding still a very firm and heavy hand on Congo is the reason why DRC has not been able to develop. Would you agree with that?
In a way or another, yes. We are still responsible of what is happening, Congolese. We are still responsible. It means, unfortunately, our leaders. But first and foremost, we have to say that Belgian people killed and even made a kind of a bad political structure in DRC. According to me, because I had 7 months of studies, just to try to, or research studies, just to try to understand why Congolese people, we are still in this bad political structure. We are still just like slaves. We are not developed, even if we have these mineral resources and everything. I found that our political structure is depending upon of Belgium or Americans. Okay, it means they are still, as they said before, the colonization is just after the colonization, and they made it in practice. They put some structure to control everything. It means we have, and some other African leaders are supposed to help Congolese people, because this is a kind of a political structure depending upon of them. If you fight, just like Lumumba, you are killed directly. It means in Congo, whenever you're just able to say no and allow the structure to change, either you are killed or you are really put aside directly. And you are put aside by embassies. I don't know if you get the point. They cannot even consider what you are talking about. It means on the Congolese political scene, you won't even be able to say what. According to me, you have those responsibility on 2 levels. International level, and we consider Belgium, which for me, I'm telling you, this is really something bad that they did in DRC. They did a political structure which depends upon of them. We have to change that. It's really high time we say no to these leaders who are depending upon of Belgium. If you have a leader who depend 80% on Belgians or Americans, it means he cannot put good policies for the DRC economics and development for the people. This is near to impossible. We cannot even imagine that. Unfortunately, that's the structure we are having right now.
So, Professor Dadisale, I'm hearing you say that DRC is not yet independent.
Yeah, I've been saying that yesterday along radios and TV, we are not at all independent, politically speaking, economically speaking. We call that, economically speaking, we call that balance commercial. I don't get it very well in importation and exportation. We depend 80% on the outside of the country. And if you take
the balance of trade,
the social aspect, the balance of trade, absolutely. If you take the social aspect, okay, you're going to see that all the people want to just go outside, and if you are successful, it means you are coming from Belgium. They did something bad with us, just sociologically, people don't consider our culture.
Yeah.
I mean, Pan-Africanists, it's just like they do their best so that we may not recognize our own culture. That's really bad. It means we are not independent even that way. If you take security, nowadays we have more than 176, if I consider official statistics, 176, how do you call them? Group of rebels.
Rebels,
okay?
yes.
And the rebels, yeah. And they are occupied areas. If you have this MONUSCO, okay, into their country, 20 years, they are there 20 years, spending money, but still we don't control our security, our own country. We don't. Kinshasa can be controlled, or Goma can be controlled, but that's not DRC. DRC is huge. If you consider that one territory is not controlled by DRC, it means we are in war. But Kinshasa doesn't declare war. Why?
Because that's the seat of government, of course.
Does not declare war.
Yeah.
You get the point. We have this Rwanda problem, South Africa, Angola problem. It means Congo is just like a country which does not control its security, unfortunately, even if people from government can say we are controlling. But I'm proving it, that we don't control. We could declare war normally. We are supposed to declare war and say we have to put away all these rebels and other people. It means I'm just trying to prove that if you take sector by sector, you're going to find that we are not independent. We're still depending upon some other hands from Belgium and some leaders who are called them, this is a kind of neo-colonial system.
Professor Dadisale, thank you very much for speaking to us from Goma in the DRC.
You're welcome.
And thank you also for your insights that you've given us this morning. We wish you all the best as you keep pushing for the second liberation of your country.
We'll make it.
Asante sana.
Thank you so much.
Excellent.
28 minutes to 9 o'clock. Let's take a break, take a look at the weather and traffic, and then this conversation continues. It's one country after the other. You're just hearing they're celebrating 60 years of independence. But really, is the DRC independent at all? Should they be celebrating anything at all, really? Well, if you look at various structures, some may bring in arguments to and from. But let's have that conversation when you check out this break. Good morning.
It's warming up just a little bit in Nairobi, and we see that it might be a rainy afternoon, but we'll have to wait and see how that plays out. We'll see highs of 23 today. Taking a look then into Nyeri, where we will see highs of 22 with showers expected in the afternoon. Nakuru is likely to be a wet afternoon as well, with highs of 23. In Eldoret, experiencing thunderstorms. Showers are imminent. Highs of 19 and lows of 12. In Kisumu, it's going to be a partly cloudy day with highs of 27 and lows of 19. Kakamega promises to be a wet afternoon with highs of 24 and lows of 15. Partly cloudy conditions in Malindi with rain showers expected to start soon, highs of 28. And in Mombasa, where the showers continue to come down, mostly cloudy conditions throughout today with highs of 28. Stepping out of Kenya, where in Kampala it's 20 degrees and mostly cloudy, likely to be a wet afternoon with highs of 26. And in Dar es Salaam, it's partly cloudy conditions to be experienced through the day with highs of 31 and lows of 22. All right, let's take a peek into Joburg. We're at 5 degrees degrees. It's mostly sunny conditions throughout today with highs of 17 and lows of 3. And finally, for now in Lagos, it's partly cloudy conditions going into thunderstorms, which we promised have already begun. 24 degrees, we'll see highs of 28 and lows of 23, with those showers going well into Thursday. Okay, there's an accident at the pipeline stage this morning. A vehicle hit an individual, and now individuals after that are quite upset, and so that has held up traffic there involving a Government of Kenya vehicle. We'll wait and see that can be removed or cleared out and hope that nobody is terribly hurt. All right, on Mombasa Road, it's still bumper to bumper right around the JKIA turnoff leading to Cabanas, and that means that traffic is still held up for a while now. We're still right in the middle of traffic hour, so it's going to take us some time to get out of it. Thika Road is also moving quite slowly getting into the CBD. It won't be held up for too long though, however. Traffic likely to dissipate in a very short while. Spice of MKE, let us know what you see if anything does jump out at you.
June 2020, DRC celebrated 60 years of independence from Belgium. The King of Belgium sent a letter to the President of the DRC expressing regret at all the atrocities committed by his kinsmen and predecessors in the DRC. Was that enough? Was that a good starting point? This is all coming from the Black Lives Matter global movement, where we've seen, a lot of push. And it's gotten to force the government to actually start acting.
Are they actually apologizing?
Not yet.
That's not an apology.
It's not an apology. It's a
statement of regret.
Statement of regret.
And you can imagine, there are those that are arguing the king did not have to go all the way out to point of apology. Started from statement of regret. That's state acknowledging, First of all, start by acknowledging that this happened, and then going to the point of, so how did it happen? What exactly happened? Then what do we say after that? We are sorry for this, and the other. And are there any reparations? We are talking about repatriation of stuff that was taken out of the DRC, things to be brought back, their culture and all. It's a process. Something was happening, remember, with the Aborigines in Australia. It didn't come straight into apology. It was a process that was gradual.
Same with the Maori in New Zealand. But of significance, in 2001, the Germans actually apologized to the Namibians for their atrocities. Earth-shattering. In 2010, the Japanese apologized to South Korea. Now, what is of interest, and I left this one for last, in 2013, June 2013, the British Foreign Secretary, a gentleman by the name of William Hague, he expressed sincere regret for the torture, abuse committed by Britain. Listen to this phrasing. By British colonial officers against Kenyans in the 50s.
Yep.
Phrasing is everything.
It's everything.
It was followed by an award of, in dollars, $31 million, which was to be shared by 5,200 families. That is what happened. But in an earlier time, in 2009, that is when Kenyans had actually taken this...
The case to court.
Yes, they had. They had. And there was pushback from the government. There's an organization called the Foreign and Commonwealth Office. They had clearly declared that they had nothing to apologize about. 8 months prior to the
William
British Foreign
Hague's.
Secretary. Yes, they had been saying, apologize for what?
We didn't do anything.
It was a culmination of a certain push. Up until that point when that lawyer Day came to Kenya and organized...
Martin Day.
Yes, and organized the Kenyans and the Mau Mau fighters.
And the cases and such,
and
right.
the cases started. When it was starting, there was a lot of scoffing and pushback and laughing off. And
They even said,
are you guys
we
saying?
are ready to meet you in court.
Yes. Kujeni mutaona. when they started seeing the kind of progress that was happening and the likelihood
And their
of
own
losing,
justice system telling them no.
Yep.
This will not
They
allow.
first didn't want the case to even start. The justice system said, no, please. Let the case proceed.
Yes.
They tried to stop meaning everything that they tried. The justice system said, no.
We're
We
not
must
going to.
hear
We-
this
we
case.
must
want
hear
to
this.
hear
We want
this
to
thing.
know what happened. I dare say that if it gets to the point whereby a justice system, whether it'll be in Belgium, whether it'll be in DRC, wherever anything like this may be carried out, because if we're going to go with trends that happened historically, if it started with an expression of regret, okay, maybe an apology will come through. We heard what Professor told us is that it's possible that there would be cases that were then taken legal routes, but then those at some point were quashed. Never really happened. If somebody has the verve and the vigor to go a little bit further and say, okay, we need to actually see that something will go, it's likely that it would come out to the fore, right? The stories alone of the things that happened to the Congolese people is enough for anybody to stand up from where they are and ask.
You don't actually need to be Congolese.
You don't need to be Congolese for you to understand that it was that brutal doesn't even begin.
No.
To describe it.
Brutal is a mild.
Brutal is a
description,
mild adjective
description.
used here in
was a
terms
free
of what
state.
happened. So
This is what was happening in a free state.
if that happened
Congo
with the
Free
British, you can understand why, because of the fact that many people are jumping up. These cases are mushrooming in many places around the world. You would understand why then King Philippe would say very quickly, let's begin now this process by me expressing my regret. Whatever will come after that, at least we've started. We've come from the premise that I have said,
So
look,
essentially, you're in control of the process.
yes, you're telling the story. You know, they always say, tell the story before somebody else has an opportunity to
Take
tell
hold
it
of
for
the
you.
narrative, yes.
Own the narrative before somebody else comes and starts to stain it and taint it for you. So if you ask me, this is what is happening here. Because whether we like it or not, these stories are going to come out. We see what the history books have already said. But then for people, truth and justice, reconciliation, what happens in those places? People come and sit down and they tell word for word their experiences. And some of those people, whether we want to look at the years that we're talking about, 1885 to 1908, some of those people who are direct beneficiaries of this brutality are still alive.
They're alive.
And they will tell their story and they will talk about the things that actually happened. The government of DRC is clearly still in the shackles of the Belgian government. That is clear and it is evident. Some of these things have to be unfurled for them to even get towards a semblance of any kind of independence. And it is clear that this narrative wants to be owned by the Belgian government before these stories come to the fore.
So, and just like the professor was saying, the Truth and Reconciliation, the commission that's now looking back at what the Belgians did during the colonial era, is being managed by the parliament of the Belgians.
Exactly.
Now, that means that also controlling the narrative. I think the opportunity here is very wide and clear, and that's what I was asking. Is the government doing anything? Are there any organizations within DRC that are taking up this mantle? Because the moment the king comes out and acknowledges that something went wrong, then the next thing is for you to take up that and say, this is what, you see what you're expressing regret over? It's exactly this, and the other.
Yeah.
And the effects of that still linger up to date. 176 rebel groups in the country that is completely ungovernable. A president who can sit for 5 years and has not traveled to a part
of the country,
a part that is large enough to be the size of Kenya. And a president, they don't even know the president. They hear of Kinshasa. It is
totally different from Goma or Kivu or anywhere else.
By the way, DRC, if you look at it honestly, is like a feudal state. And you have warlords who control provinces.
Yes.
Okay? How does a company in South Africa build a railway? We know where South Africa is, right up to DRC. Unless it's for some very direct benefits. Meaning whatever they get from the earth goes directly back. In this country, that Mau Mau experience, the Mau Mau war, the Mau Mau fight, 11,000 combatants were killed, 1,090 were hanged, right? 32 white settlers were killed. These are large numbers. DRC, 10 million.
Imagine.
10 million. Us, we didn't even approach 100,000.
10
10 million.
In the 1800s, 10 million people
10
died.
million
How many
people
people
died.
do you
How
think
many
it-
were there?
Yes,
Yeah.
They almost decimated the entire country. You know, this is not mild. You know what the Germans did? What the Germans perpetrated in Namibia, what the Germans perpetrated during the Second World War, all the atrocities that people look at and shudder and shake, none is comparable
To
to
what
what the
happened in
Belgians
DRC.
did.
Yeah.
So you have to ask, what on earth did they do?
Exactly. And this is what I'm telling you, that there is some kind of shame. I don't know how to, sometimes I don't know, English doesn't quite capture it, right? There's a kind of,
Say it in pidgin.
in my language, it's called uyagami. The thing that you don't want people to know that you are involved in.
Deep shame.
I think that is the one that now brings out this expression of regret. Because we talk about the fact that, okay, well, the people who are dealing with it now maybe they don't know. They didn't really understand how bad it was. But what did we hear Professor Daddy say? He said it very clearly. You are responsible for even that one that is your grandchild today. You are not there, but you're responsible for the fruit, even till today. He feels that shame. He feels that tint. And the thing that was done to people, if unmentionables, like you say, that are still reaping, and they're still unfortunately reaping the harvest of that sowing that was done then. So we ask the questions, why? Because now you say, okay, it was a war, things were going on, there were rebel groups, there was colonialism going on. How does it possibly affect a 21st century nation today in the global schematics? A country, like you said, they can't govern the country, number one. So disenfranchised, regions, one to the other. Things that are happening in Goma, nobody knows what's happening in Kinshasa. Kinshasa seems to be Antwerp itself.
Yep.
Those are the questions that you begin to ask yourself. Why then a country that is so rich, one of the richest in the world when it comes to natural resources, then is not even able to feed its people? Those are the questions that you start to ask today. We often say that there are African solutions to African problems, but it is very clear that the problems that the DR Congo continues to suffer from today are as a direct result of what was meted upon them by the Belgian government. This one they cannot run away from.
And the fact also of the matter is that even though the king is expressing regret, even though there is a commission that is investigating what exactly happened in those many years of colonialism, even though the Belgian government is taking steps, there are some things that the Belgian government will not do. And that's a fact. Because for them to get to a point where they accept that, we've built our nation, we've built our country from blood of other people.
On the back and blood of these individuals.
They will not accept to come out publicly and say, this is what we are. Because it comes with its own ramifications. So the job here is on other people to push this story and to push this agenda and to demand. If people from the DRC don't do this, if people from the DRC and other parts of the world do not come together and say, all right, this is our window of opportunity. Finally, the state of Belgium has acknowledged what it did. Finally, because of that window, let's get in and start telling this story and start pushing for this and the other. If you're talking about historical things that was stolen from the DRC and the DRC people,
Return them.
culturally, return them. If you're talking about what has happened over the years in terms of looking at the direct criminal activities that have taken place over the years, demand direct justice for them. If you're talking about reparations and what kind of reparations, and seeing how then can we make the Belgians feel responsible for the state of affairs of their fellow human beings. Just like we're saying, they're fellow human beings, equal in every aspect of the word, apart from the fact that their livelihoods are completely different. What is it that the Belgian people need to do to support their brothers and sisters in the DRC to get to a certain level?
Do you know
this story cannot be pushed from Antwerp. This story cannot be pushed by the members of parliament of Belgium or the king and his family. It will not be pushed by them.
For a country that says it is independent 60 years, and for the people of the country to still be able to open their mouths and breathe out the saying or expression that if you want to be successful in this life, you must go to Belgium to be able to do that.
Yeah.
citizens of an independent state still believe that the only way for them to be deemed successful is if they go and are domiciled in a country
And
that held it
educated.
and educated, that was their colonial master. Can you believe it?
Yes. I
Until
can.
now, this is what their belief is. Unless we go to Belgium, staying here in DRC, we will not be
You know, think
successful.
about it. Huh? Belgium had DRC. Did they have any other colony on this continent? No.
No.
Britain, on the other hand, they had their colonial power a little far-flung.
Just a little. Still
So-
do, some would argue.
So what it means is any admission by the British government would have some serious ripple effects
Yep.
across continents. It wouldn't end with Kenya. You go to Southeast Asia, I would say take your pick.
Yeah.
Where do you want to begin and where do you want to end? And then it will have a ripple effect on other countries that also had colonial states like France. Now, I don't claim to understand the thinking behind people who still want to protect what the colonialists did and the thinking behind colonialism, though that thinking is not difficult to figure out. Get as much as you can to build your own country, and damn whoever it is you get it from. The natives of what you did at best was ensure you created a native force whom you give instructions.
Yeah.
Because like in Congo, we talk of minerals. One of the things that they extracted was actually rubber. So they had forced labor. Now rubber, you found in trees. Trees, forest. Forest has disease. But what they did was, not only did they kill you if you refuse to work in these forced labors, but they also raised the entire village was decimated, gone. When they say village, it's not just village in houses,
Animals
plus
plus-
everybody.
and everything.
Yes. And yet, if you look at that Berlin conference that set all these processes in motion, when they allocated this region, around 2,600 square kilometers of land to Belgium, they actually gave it to a charitable organization that Leopold II controlled. Charitable.
It was personal. It was a personal piece of land.
No, he owned it.
It was his.
It was
like,
his.
Those 13 plots that we talked about.
It was not a Belgian colony.
No.
It was
It
an
was
individual
his.
King
plot
Leopold.
to play.
His. But after all, the thinking then, if you think about it, Belgium was also his. Kings owned countries. The countries were theirs. And their relatives could own. That's why why do you think you had feudal systems? Country belonged to king.
So king then could
People
institute
belonged
people to
to
work
king.
for king.
Yes.
That's why it was said, you work for king and country.
Yes.
That's where the phrase came from. Yeah. So you're not working to build a better, this thing of building a better life for yourself is actually a very recent thing. You were working for king and country. So the feudal system, yes, so you had the serfs and the lords and et cetera, et cetera. So now even those lords were put to make sure that these individuals are doing their work to be able to repatriate to the king.
And why you see this system that we talk of as a colonial system, these people practice it on their own people first.
They did.
Because even the church system was part of that regal royal system. And in many cases, the head of the church was also a relative of the king. So this guy is in charge and has held you captive spiritually. They preach messages that ensure you accept this servitude that you have as being normal and as being, in fact, a good thing. Remember, in America, they took it further. They even had a slave's Bible. And that slave's Bible removed sections that talked about freedom.
For freedom,
No,
yeah.
yes. It talked about how serving your master was a good thing before God and things like that. They removed huge chunks. Now, if you talk about a revised Bible, that was Jenny.
That was the real revised
yes,
one.
it was revised downwards. Colonialism was something that had been practiced among their own people. So when it came to a dark continent, as they called our lovely sunny continent, we have more sun than them, and yet we are
I don't understand where dark came
Yes,
from.
exactly. I think it came from our complexion.
Okay.
But the truth of the matter is, They came here with one thing in mind, to enrich their countries. That is it.
However, the means was not really the issue.
No.
The
Maximize
end-
profits.
the
Someone gets in
end-
a way, get rid of that person immediately.
The end was
But
the
you know,
goal.
talking of reparations, the Namibians should also ask for reparations from the South Africans. Because when the Belgians left, after the...
South Africans took over.
Yes, they did. If you are talking about looking at this thing fairly and squarely. And for the longest time, the South Africans are the ones who actually controlled Namibia. In the absence of that atrocity, remember, there are people who left these countries of their own. People who went to America. They're from Great Britain. Those first people who moved and went there.
The Pilgrims were Brits.
They were Brits.
They were the
Yes.
first
Running
ones.
away from.
The Mayflower. It was
Yes,
them.
The Mayflower landed on the shores of Pennsylvania.
Yes.
And they came from... That's
They were
why...
running away.
That's why you had New York. That's why you had Newfoundland. That's why you had New Hampshire. Because it was a newer version of what they ran away from. Look
Now-
at the history, and that's what you know.
And if you want to understand how this thing was not just corrosive, but also infectious, you only need to look at the history of the Native Americans and what these people who
The visitors.
migrated, what they did. Hey? They actually had a policy of decimating. This one was not even, let's get together and be friendly. Get rid of.
And
Kill-
Finish.
not
Yeah.
get out, because, you get out, you can come back, right?
Clear.
So here it is,
Clear the
clear,
earth.
finish, done. There were things, if you want to talk about brutality and starting, these folks had it down to a T. It could be actually that they are the ones who actually invented the word brutal, because some of the things that they then did to the indigenous Americans,
We also had our own brand of it. But what they did to the Native Americans,
it was
goodness gracious me.
So this Black Lives movement, Black Lives Matter movement globally, is bringing to the fore all these things.
Yes.
It's bringing the conversation
It's
back.
resuscitating and it is
and the
resurrecting.
difference, and the difference now between this and the previous kind of protest that we've seen in America because of race is that now this is global.
it's global.
And it's not just
Yeah.
looking at,
And it's
Black
bringing
lives
changes
now,
not just in America, but across the world.
across the world. Far-reaching, long-lasting.
Suddenly discrimination based on color has become such a bad word, such a bad thing. And remember, there's a...
Canadians even gave you guys Swahili Day. What did they call it?
Yep.
Swahili something.
Swahili Day.
They give, yeah. I just throw that in there, but continue.
No. Remember, this push is going to continue because even in those countries, there's a generation who are not very clear about what the ancestors did.
Yeah.
You think that we're the ones who revise our history. The whole world, they're revisionists, people who write what is acceptable and palatable. But then you have a generation that decide, no, let's just find out what really
Let's
happened.
go back
We
and
want to
check.
know what really
Well,
happened.
how did we get here? And how did we suddenly be this way? It's often at the back. How did South Africa suddenly become so wealthy? It's at the back of all those black people.
These are the questions, though. These individuals whom we say may not really have known what happened and they're not seeking to understand what really happened could be the ones that would be saviors for countries such as DRC. Because when you begin to open it up and have these conversations, people want to know what happened. And if that is what is going to get these reparations in place, if that is what is going to get the returning of huge, monumental artifacts that actually contribute to the economy of an entire nation, right? Gold, diamonds, whatever it is.
All those
All
streetlights
those things that they
that
took
Belgium
away.
prides itself in.
That are sitting right now there.
It was.
You can imagine what would happen when you bring something back in the midst of a population now that is awake to the reality that the shackles
Of what
that
they're enjoying.
Exactly. And the shackles that they are still holding on to now could actually fall off. Because the realization then is right there in their presence, number one. And number two, they're aware of really what is holding them back. You can imagine what it would do to then move a country like this forward. Isn't it sad with such geographical space that DRC has, as we bring the conversation down now, with the geographical space that DRC has, with the riches that it has, with the population that it has, in terms of resources, what this country would be able to do and achieve with the realization of the strength that they actually have. But it is clear that that is what they try to muzzle. And it's time, as these conversations are happening around the world, it's an opportunity, like you said. It's an opportunity to take it and make sure that it has lasting effects, not just some ripple and feel-good conversation that people are going to feel nice about for a couple of weeks and then it dies down.
Yep.
60 years of independence and not free.
And it's for the Congolese to take it up. The Black Lives Movement is bringing up all these issues.
And people are taking up these things in their own countries.
Yeah, pick up your own issue and run with it.
Yep.
It has come, it's an opportunity, it's high time that people from the DRC and from Africa just start picking up this matters and pushing them. Because also, other African countries can rally together with the DRC and say, look. Our brothers and sisters, we know what happened to the DRC. We can help those in the DRC in pushing this conversation forward.
Eric, think of a footnote that I want to end on.
Mm-hmm.
The French even have a party that is known for its racism. And it actually got quite that person whose name I do not like to try to pronounce is
Marie Le Pen.
Le Pen, yes. Okay. It's a racist party. Okay. But they forget that it's their colonial policies that ensure that blacks would come to their country.
Indeed. Today's proverb has come to the top of the hour.
Today's proverb, my friend, is that the road that you travel on doesn't tell you what lies ahead.
There you go. It's 9 o'clock. Good morning.
Okay, so Jogo Road has joined the madness today. Getting to the City Stadium roundabout is not going to be very easy, unfortunately. And Juja Road also is a bit crazy right now. Should have been out of that madness by now, but unfortunately that has not happened quite yet. But it will, guys. I'm sure it will open up soon enough. We'll get out of the madness in a short while. Spice FMKE, that's how you can reach us on Twitter. For now, you're just going to have to be patient where you find some drama.
Spice up your life. Traffic. This is The Situation Room, the home of hard-hitting political commentary and penetrating insights about the state of the nation. This is a talk radio experience like no other. The Situation Room, a place for hard truths, debates, and elevated conversations.
Yes, it's also
the
Kenya's biggest conversation, and let's talk about big money now. Yesterday, the president signed some 3 bills. One of them is the Finance Bill 2020. That talks about how the government intends to, get its act together in terms of financing the economy and raising money. Now, in that bill, a controversial tax on bets placed, which is what so many companies exit the lucrative Kenyan betting market, was dropped in last-minute amendments. This means that we are going to have a return of sports betting. The government appears to have reversed its stand on sports betting with the removal of a tax that saw most companies exit the market. A proposal to drop the 20% excise duty on bets staked is contained in an amendment to the finance bill that the president assented to yesterday. At the same time, there has been a quiet change in the shareholding of betting giant SportPesa, which exited Kenya last year during the tax controversy. Details buried in corporate filings in Kenya, the UK, and the Isle of Man revealed that businessman Peter Muiruri has, over the past 14 months, acquired stakes in 3 companies that are part of SportPesa's international gambling empire. This gentleman is called Peter Kehanya Muiruri. The Nation, working with the UK-based journalism organisation, Finance, uncovered accessed documents filed by SportPesa companies in Kenya, the UK, and the Isle of Man, a tax haven off the coast of Britain. The documents show that Mr. Muiruri is a shareholder in 3 companies linked to SportPesa. Okay. Now, the SportPesa shareholding shows that Mr. Peter Kehanya Muiruri had 1%. In the Isle of Man, that's the ones for Pevans East Africa that run Sports Pesa in Kenya. Sport Pesa Holdings Limited in the Isle of Man, Mr. Muiruri has 3%. And in the Sport Pesa Global Holdings Limited, Mr. Muiruri has gotten to a point of Peter Kehanya 0.5%. Okay, is what's happening. Anyway, the story here is that now that whole thing that was making betting companies see it doesn't make sense to have business in the country has been removed, and now the betting companies can return. The conversation, however, at the same time, when those who are pushing for the exit of betting companies from the country was on the moral side of things and what was happening to the society because of sports betting specifically. Many youth who are falling into betting and becoming gamblers. Okay, they were getting addicted into
betting away their savings.
Husbands were betting away their savings. Wives were no longer investing in chamas but going into sports betting.
Imagine.
Yeah. So all these things were happening to our communities and our society. And that's why people are saying, this thing is a curse to our community. It's a curse to our society. We need to move away from that. Now, have we addressed those issues, those concerns?
I don't think
have we even looked at that?
Do we understand them?
First of all, do we even understand how it is that Kenyans perceive gambling? Because I'm not calling it betting. I'm calling it what it is. Gambling. Do we even understand what it is? It is an industry like any other. And do we understand the psychology of Kenyans with regards to gambling, what they perceive it to be? You see, there is a concept in psychology. It's called magic thinking. Where you have this thing running through your head, and then you allow that to become your reality. Now, gambling provides you with that in abundance. For the simple reason that by simply spending pittance, you can occasionally actually make so much money from it, multiples of it, that you feel this is something that ought to be the norm.
Yeah.
It never is. And nobody bothers to ask that even when you have lotteries where you have one winner winning some hundreds of thousands of shillings or dollars or whatever the amount is, you fail to ask, but of all the people who actually put their money...
how many had invested in this?
Yes, and how many actually gets to win? And if you look at the statistics, you'll realize that chances of winning are so slim to the point of being almost non-existent. But because of that promise and the belief that somehow if somebody can be lucky, so can you. This is further exacerbated by poverty. When you don't have a way out and you feel you don't really know what to do with your life, and someone tells you that by spending not 100 shillings, 20 shillings,
20 shillings,
you're able to do A, B, C, D. There'll be many people who will tell you that during Sport Pesa, they put 100, got 500. You see, the thing is, you don't stop with 500 because if 20 shillings, why not now?
Why not put in
the whole amount? And or why not look for even more money so that it can work now? It stops. It would stop if you understood that you're fortunate. But when you keep thinking of what you can gain, and then the second phase comes into play, trying to recover what you think you have lost.
So because I lost this 1,000 shillings or whatever, I'm sure this time it won't be the same.
Yes.
Because before that, I was able to win when I put in 20 shillings and I got 500. Then I lost 1,000 shillings. But it's okay. If I just try again, the possibility of me winning is actually quite high because this football thing, I know it, and I can be able to predict based on the way the players are performing, etc., etc. Has it then gotten so far into the minds of people that it is the way out? It's the way for me to have a little bit of extra. I don't think that people who are gambling or placing bets are applying a smidgen of morality to it. It doesn't play in the minds of people at all. So when people are talking about it being a vice, it is something dangerous. It is actually eroding the fiber of society, this, that, the other thing. People are getting rid of their savings to be able to do that. The people who are operating in it are not applying an ounce of morality. It's not about right or wrong. If anything, it's about raising my profile economically.
But is it immoral?
It is often associated with social ills.
Because
just like drinking. has
Let's
been
look at
associated
it
with
this way. Okay,
social
yeah,
ills.
we can say so. Drinking comes with social ills. Just drinking alone, no. But everything else around drinking. Okay, if you're running a betting company, and this is it, you're asking people to place their bets on which team is gonna win or who's gonna play or at what point is the score gonna come, all those things, and there are all these measures that have been put in place in terms of regulation by the government. Where is the morality and immorality coming in?
Eric, it isn't just football. Those companies like SportPesa also have stakes in casinos.
Mm-hmm.
All right? Now, one of the lures in casinos is that everything inside the casino is free.
They'll even
Alcohol,
comp your
food,
room,
free.
hotel.
If it's within a hotel setting, if you're a gambler. So it's attractive depending on what level of gambling someone wants to get into. Now, the social ill, which we are now calling, which now calls in the aspect of morality, is that when someone takes money that they had planned for something else to gamble with and they lose it, it affects the lives of very many other people very, very adversely.
Yeah.
That's where the social ill comes in. When someone takes even a little bit of money that was meant to buy something which was of a necessity to that particular family and it dissipates in this activity, then it is considered a social ill. Drinking, had it not been that it was associated with the drunkards or people who consume the money that they have for families in their drinking activities, it would never have been called a social ill. But because of what it's associated with and the harm that it has been seen, wholesale, this entire process.
So it gets wholesale. It gets wholesale condemnation because of the few instances that go wrong.
Yes.
Right? Because it's a few instances. So, and that's why I was asking: is it really immoral? There are few cases where people get hooked into this. There are few cases because of whatever other factors are seeing people losing their livelihoods because they got into this and they were unable to come out. Yes. Does that mean that the whole thing is immoral? I know that that's what we talk about wholesale and all, and that's why I was asking you, because you were saying that the people who are operating this business do not practice an ounce or iota of morality.
It's a business.
Their business.
No, it's
and that's what I'm saying. It's a
they're
business.
not thinking about
as
it
far
like
as
that.
they're concerned.
They're making money.
It's a business, and they've put in the checks and balances. That's why
Yes.
a majority are not getting into that addiction and hook and all that. And the government as well has a role to play in terms of regulating this business.
Eric, the vast majority of Kenyans don't even drink.
Yeah.
And those who drink, not all of them, in fact, a very small number are drunks.
Yeah.
By the same token, a very small number of people actually gamble. And of those who gamble,
Very
Very few of them are the ones
are addicted.
who are
Yes,
addicted,
you
and
could
very
argue.
few are actually taking their family savings or what was then meant for something else to go and throw away at the foot of or at the altar of gambling. Very few. However, the person who coined the phrase "one bad apple spoils the bunch" knew what they were talking about. These other apples are not necessarily all bad, but that because of the fact that you were in the company or in the vicinity of this one, you might have a little smidgen of rot, right? But guess what? You're going to take the entire bunch and throw it away. And that's
Okay.
what happens in this case.
Okay. So what let's allocate the responsibility, apportion the responsibility. Responsibility of investor in this business, responsibility of government, responsibility of the player. Apportion the responsibility there in terms of who's responsible for ensuring that this thing goes well, or that the business is running well, that the society is not getting affected by this entire business. Government has a huge role to play in
Sure,
this.
but if you want to
because
look at the
it's the one that's regulating
responsibility,
and licensing and coming up with these laws and saying, okay, we expect that you're going to put up X percentage of your money into this kitty that will go into awareness and
Eric, you know,
the unfortunate thing is that if it comes to responsibility
every
of a
time you're
player,
betting, you shall receive
if
an
it co- when
SMS
it
that
comes
tells
to-
you
no,
betting
that's
can
the
be
thing. It's the
addictive.
same. Yeah, that's okay. But at the same time, when you sell a beer to someone, for example, you're not going to sit with them at the bar and say, you know what, you can't have the third one. Because if you do, that means there's certain things that you're going to do. No,
Government.
You're responsible. Yeah, but you can put up the messages and you can say. However, the ultimate decision lies at the
with
hearts
you.
of the individual.
The individual.
Yes.
Yep.
But now there's certain things that you cannot legislate for. Unfortunately, you can't. You cannot put it into law that it says, you know what, this money that you want to use to gamble the next thing, dare you take it out of your family's savings, or dare you go and ask your wife or your husband to give you that one that he or she is holding to gamble this thing, we'll arrest you. You can't do that.
You know,
Or before you actually put up this money, come with every form signed by everybody around you who says they have okayed.
And when you're doing it on your phone, there's
You
going to be a
inve-
pop-up
you
screen that says,
investing this
actually,
money.
you need to be sure that this money is only the leftover that you have after having saved,
A pop-up
invested,
I
and taken
support,
care
by
of
the
it.
way.
I mean,
I pop-up I support. Just the same way we have that kind of huge branding on the cigarette packs. A pop-up I support. The role, the responsibility of the investor and government is on awareness creation. Right? And awareness creation is that for any new person who's entering into this and they have not maybe factored in or thought about the likely impact, negative impact of what they are participating in, they need to be made aware. You shall have those kind of warnings. That's why you have all those warnings. Cigarette smoking is harmful to your health.
don't drink and drive.
Don't drink
kind
and
of
drive.
things,
All
right?
those kind of things. And the cigarette packs that now we have in the smoking in the
so what,
Tobacco Control Act.
what label then should we have from
Government can come.
Pangwakando? Because they are far more harmful to the
Here
to our
you were
families'
thinking that he
social
was going
setup.
to. Here you were thinking that he was going to support a pop-up, and then he brings something.
Yeah, what label? Because the damage. If you're talking about,
There was a communication that came out from the National AIDS and Control Council that had that kind of thing about Mpango wa Kando, the completely always visible messaging.
you see, they were talking about disease and how disease can decimate a family. I'm talking about the financial. It's called I'm calling financial impropriety because you're diverting money that was intended for your family to a source. That yes, gambling gives you pleasure. So does the Mpango wa Kando. Okay, so all I'm saying is, if you want to cast this moral net,
Cast it wide.
please cast it wide and cover as many things as you possibly can.
As they emerge.
Yes, and bear this in mind. Now, this is the label. Remember, cigarette
As they
smoke kills.
emerge.
This is what that. Not only is the choice yours, but you cannot legislate morality. Well, no, let me be honest. You can try to legislate it, but how do you enforce it exactly?
You cannot enforce
You can't enforce
legislation on morality. All right?
Yes.
The same way we were saying, you cannot enforce and say that before you buy this particular cigarette, let's check. Let's go and get tested. Check your lungs are fine. Oh, why? How many cigarettes have you
Can't you
taken
do
a
that?
day? You
Do
cannot do
that.
that. What you're going to do is have that information, awareness creation. As you do this, bear in mind, in case you did not know, these are the likely effects of cigarette smoking.
All right.
Gambling is
It's
also
the same.
addictive.
If we
Gambling is addictive. That kind of messaging. And
So-
I think the betting companies were all ready to do that.
So the
all ready to
Ministry
say,
of
okay,
Social
so
Services should also have an arm that deals. Same story. I'm talking about Mpango wa Kando. Who says the sort of Mpango wa Kando that is actually useful to you
yes,
is one who has this sort of education, the one who has a job.
those adverts with Jimmy Garth coming there, wachana na mpango wa kando. Wasn't he calculating? Okay, how much have you sent? This is how much you're spending on mpango wa
Yes.
kando.
And did it stop?
No.
I mean, you tell someone this is what
No studies were
it's like.
conducted.
People who are committed to having a drink every evening. You can eat ugali and sukuma wiki for the whole year, but he's going to go
He's
and
going
have
to
his drink.
have his drink.
Now, this is why they say it's drunkards who give drink a bad name. Because drink on its own, where it is standing or
By
where it is
itself,
placed,
there's no problem.
what does it do? It doesn't even look at you, it just sits there.
When you activate it, however,
Yes. And you activate it in quantities that your body cannot manage well, then you have a problem. You then activate something else that you shouldn't have.
then you say it's the drink that's bad, whereas
You
it is you.
It is not that the drink on its own doesn't really have a problem, it is you.
Okay. When we come out of this weather break, let's bring the conversation back to the point of those that were arguing about the morality side, those were arguing about, betting, taking very many of our children into some sort of crazy addiction and all that. Have those concerns been addressed, and how can they be addressed?
They haven't been addressed.
No, they're not.
And how can they be addressed? Okay, 17 minutes after 9, it's a Situation Room. It's Kenya's biggest conversation. We'll also open up the phone lines for you to join this conversation. 0719-012-600. The return of sports betting in the country. What's your reaction to that? Good morning.
It's clouding up in Nairobi. Now, mostly cloudy conditions at 17 degrees. Likelihood of rain in the afternoon with highs of 23. We're looking at partly mostly cloudy conditions in Nyeri today. 22 degrees the high with showers now expected for the afternoon. Nakuru is likely to be wet as well with 23 degrees. The high currently at 16 degrees with partly cloudy conditions. Eldoret, thunderstorms forecasted for later with highs of 19. And in Kisumu, where it's partly cloudy for now, that's the way it's going to be through most of the day with highs of 27 and lows of 19. Kakamega will experience rain in the afternoon with highs of 24. And Malindi will experience thunderstorms later with highs of 28 and lows of 23. Mombasa is mostly cloudy this morning at 26 degrees. Showers expected later with highs of 28. Taking a look then into Kampala, where it's likely to be a wet afternoon with highs of 26. And in Dar es Salaam, 31 degrees the high with mostly cloudy conditions. Let's take a look then into Joburg, where clear skies at 6 degrees. We'll see highs of 17 and lows of 4. And in Lagos, thunderstorms are continuing and will likely continue well into Thursday with highs of 28 for today. Getting closer and closer to Wednesday morning in New York, it's mostly cloudy at 22 and they'll wake up to rain with highs of 27. And in Paris, it's cloudy today at 19 degrees. The chance of showers pretty high with highs of 25 and lows of 16. And we'll wrap things up in London for today, where it's mostly sunny at 15 degrees. It'll change later though with showers expected for the afternoon with highs of 22 and lows of 12.
Past 9. The conversation continues. Sport betting in the country. The president signed the finance bill yesterday, and in that bill, the controversial 20% tax on income from sport betting has been removed. So now the gaming companies are going to come back. And to pay a lot.
Mature, intelligent talk every morning. Spice up yourself.
This whole drama, and I'm calling it drama, seemed to have pointed towards what we call a shakedown. Okay. In order for you to come back, I'll remove this thing. Even I know it's ridiculous. We'll remove it.
But you know.
But now that we have an understanding.
The Ugandan word. What's in it for me?
Are you, yes? So
Are you willing to allow?
I am willing for you to come back. In fact, you can actually come back.
So let's do this.
But before you actually come back.
Can we talk about?
Yes, let's talk about.
But
You think an industry that was proven to be so lucrative was just going to be let to be lucrative on its own by itself like that?
So what you're saying is that even the government didn't care. That whole story of it's immoral. It's taking our young people into poverty, driving families into poverty because everybody's just betting on their family income.
Bro, have we done a study to determine how many people were impoverished because they were betting?
Because they participated in betting.
We know. We have the numbers of our unemployed in the country.
Yep.
And a good portion of that unemployment is because money that's meant to actually assist them is pilfered. So you're talking about morality. What is immoral is what people who are charged with the duty of looking after the interests of these individuals don't. That's immoral. In fact, that's grossly immoral. Because these people aren't given a choice. You think you're part of a government that should look after your interests, and this is their duty, but they don't. So, this morality clause...
It's just a story. 0719-012-600. What do you think of this, the return of sports betting in the country? Zachary, good morning.
Oh, good morning.
How are you, Zachary?
I'm fine, thank you. I'm taking my porridge.
Okay.
Oh, okay.
As I listen to the very good conversation.
Wimby porridge or maize flour porridge?
It's a mixture of, I met a certain Luje woman, and she put in their groundnuts and everything, yeah, cassava, everything, yeah. And
Groundnuts, cassava.
Yeah.
Sorry,
very nice. Very nice. That is why I found the essence of mentioning to the nation that I'm taking that now, yeah.
Very good.
Sure. Now,
sport betting returns to the country.
Say hi to Mr. Instructor there.
Mr. Instructor.
AKA Mwalimu. Now, let me tell you, you are having a very good discussion. And Mr. Instructor there will tell you that gambling is speculation. And you cannot build yourself economically based on speculation, yeah? And probably let me chip in that way back in the 1990s, yeah? I read a magazine. And I'm saying this for the sake of the people who are addicted to gambling, yeah? That, do you see the lightning when it comes before you hear the thunder?
Yep.
Sometimes that lightning may strike Eric or our instructor there or even do, yeah? Or even me, Baba, there or my way there, yeah? But the chances are very slim, very, very slim, yeah? Now, they said that in any gambling adventure, the chances of you winning are much more slimmer than that scenario of you being struck by a lightning, okay?
Yep.
Therefore, any time that you wage, is it calling wagering or what? There's that word, yeah? Even if it is 10 shillings, note that the probability of that 10 shillings attracting any money from gambling is much more slim than you going into a writing institution and you being struck, yeah?
Okay.
Let me advise gamblers, yeah? You'll find that, Mr. Eric, if you gamble and you start gambling with 10 shillings, the likelihood of you, getting some coins up there is much higher than that person who is going to wager 1,000.
But Zachary, there are very many people who participate in betting and gambling, not for seeking to acquire wealth out of this or get rich, but just for entertainment purposes. In fact, that's what the main driver for this is. It's entertainment. It's recreational. When you go and buy a charity sweepstake, you're just passing somewhere and the charity kiosk is there and you buy it. It's not that you're putting all your bets on that 10 bob, turning you into a millionaire.
And that is why we are saying, I think it is Mr. Instructor there who said that they should, the way cigarettes are labeled with this, if you smoke, these are the repercussions, yeah?
Yep.
I read them, I understand them, but I may choose, okay, I'll go ahead and smoke, okay? Because of the satisfaction that I get out of it, yeah? But I know I have been for one there. Now, the gambling industry should be regulated such that if I decided to go into it as a sport, it's my funeral, yeah? If I decide to go into it so that I'm gambling, I'm telling Mama that I'm going to gamble, and therefore you can watch the Suria stream, I'm very sure I'm going to come back with the Uga and Patubo.
It's a choice you make. So you're calling for regulation, tougher regulation on gambling and sports betting.
Definitely. Tougher regulations in very simple language, yeah?
Okay.
The people who gamble should be made to understand what is really in because it is addictive, as our instructor there said, yeah?
Okay. Got your
and
point.
I'm wishing all of you good day.
Enjoy your porridge.
Zachary.
Thank you, Zachary.
Thank you.
Brian in Nakuru, good morning. Brian?
Okay, thank you for this morning. Okay, Sportsbeta is coming back, and we are, as we check how things are going right now in the area, the first thing they were removing gambling is because of their addiction. Guys were getting addicted, and guys were putting in their hard-earned money for their, and they are going to try their luck. in the essence of getting more. Okay, me, I've done gambling. You think putting 20 shillings can bring in back, but in the long run, you're putting in 20 shillings, 20 shillings, 20 shillings, and a day. You can put 20 shillings around like 7 times, and that is me. So how many people around my community in a population of around 50 guys?
Yeah.
Let's say in a population of around 3 people and 1,000 people who are gambling, and each and every one of them is putting around 140 shillings, and none of them is winning. So it was a money-making venture for the farms, and if they are bringing back sport pesa, let them bring back even the small machines, the token ones. Because it was the local person benefiting from that. It was a business for the local person gambling.
Okay, thank you, Brian. Paul Kinyanjui in Makueni.
Yes, good morning.
Good morning.
I'd like to contribute into this topic.
Go ahead, Paul.
Yeah, now I'm so concerned about this issue of gambling. And one of the reasons is why I try to ask myself, why do people bet? And one of the reasons why there is so much betting, despite it being addictive, to me, when I look at it from a social scientist point of view, is a sign of, in a way, idleness. And I think what best more is what should people do as an alternative?
Okay.
So if we had good governance and we had resources, if there was water for people to carry out irrigation and information on development in other areas and structure, we will not see this kind of betting that goes on.
Okay. Now with what we have, because sport betting is back, I mean, it's never really left. It's just that now the requirement for 20% excise has gone. Okay, we've lost Paul. Maybe he'll call back to respond to this. Geoffrey in Mombasa, good morning.
Good morning, ladies and gentlemen.
Good morning.
Good morning.
Well, I want to concur with the city that this is an immoral activity that we are letting it back to our country again. Because going by whatever has been happening to our youth, and even old people who've been engrossed in this activity, some of them have actually lost their lives because of maybe the expectation they have on this very activity. I think it is not a good thing. And what makes me wonder, after a couple of months, when this thing was like it has been taken away from us, then it's back. Whose interest has been taken care of? That's why now this thing is back to us. I think we need to ask ourselves as a society, indeed, with the big number of youth who are jobless, and they are meant to believe that by gambling you can make your life out of it. What kind of society are we actually bringing up? People who not even work hard, people who not even care about how they get their resources and even be able to account for it, so how they got it.
Geoffrey, are you saying that it should be banned completely?
It has to be banned, actually, because what is the logic behind it?
Entertainment.
The really logic behind it, I don't understand it.
Okay, Geoffrey. Trevor, good morning.
Morning, how are you?
We're well, thank you. Where are you this morning, Trevor?
I'm doing well.
Where are you?
I'm still stuck in Kisumu. You see, our dear president refused to open the borders. I don't want to smuggle myself.
It
so
is
I'm
Corona.
I'm law-abiding at the moment.
Okay.
Yeah, and now Corona issues. Now you add on betting. Now we are now adding on top of another catastrophe in the waiting. So I don't know. I think people are worried more about sport pesa because of its the way they marketed themselves. Because at the moment there are still betting companies still running in the country. Yes.
Yes.
But this particular one, this was the mother of them all. And there's a possibility when they come back, if they come back, the market share that they had, they can get it, say, in a month at most. But most people fell prey to betting because of either greed. They don't understand that betting probably is a leisure activity. And you cannot tell somebody in the youth, once somebody wins, say, a jackpot of 100 million, and they are the poster child of betting, everybody else in this Instagram life, everybody else wants that glam life, and that glam life comes with money.
Yeah.
And if you're told you can actually put in 100 shillings and get 100 million, what will prevent you as a youth who wants that life from putting that 100 bob every weekend just to try and level up and get that money? As for instance, I will not say I have betted before. We probably had some other different way of doing it because it was for fun. I got out more than I put in, thank God, but I will not actually do it again.
So, do you want sport betting to be completely abolished, or do you want it to come back, or to be regulated with tougher regulations? It's already regulated. Are you just calling for tougher regulations?
Probably a tougher regulation will be that. And then I don't know how you can actually sensitize people to view it as leisure. Like, let's say I am going out to drink. I cannot go and drink 100,000 worth of money unless I'm an alcoholic, which means I need therapy. But most people just took it like, I can make it using this. I can just wait for 2 hours for somebody else to be paid to play there, to play. And then we used to tell people, unless you are the one playing that sport, don't go and put in some money in there, hoping that it will come out.
Thank you, Trevor. Thank you. Have a good day in quarantine in Kisumu.
Thank you very much.
26 minutes to 10 o'clock. Let's take a look at the traffic and then we come back. 0719-012-600. Should sports betting be banned altogether, or should there be tougher regulations introduced, especially on consumer awareness? Good morning.
All right, rope-tight traffic is what we're experiencing on Juja Road this morning. For some reason, everybody in and out of the city today, and so it's affecting traffic. Jogger Road seems to be loosening up just a little bit to be able to get into the CBD now with no issues. Mombasa Road also opening up, as well as Thika Road, so officially out of traffic hour. And from now, we see that it should be easy street in most parts, unless anything does jump out at you. Seem to have been able to manage it pretty well for a Wednesday morning. Spice of MKE, and that's how you can reach us on Twitter even after this, as we continue to see what happens on the roads. And we expect traffic to pick up later on in the day, but for now, it seems we're all good to go.
Online, mobile, and on radio. Twitter at SpiceFMKE. Traffic.
So let's get some things straight now. Right? Betting, gambling, and all those, even lotteries, are all regulated in the country. There's even an organization for this, a public government institution for this, the Betting Control and Licensing Board. If you want to participate in any of these kind of businesses, you must go to them, and they're the ones who will license you. They are the regulating authority. So, regulation is there. From Kitambo, from the days of just the Kenya Charity Sweepstake, to the days of winning anything on radio. You know, you've participated in a competition and you're winning on radio. You've sent in, you're buying whatever product, and you put in that small slip and you sent via post office to the company, and you stand a chance of winning a Fiat Uno or whatever kind of car or whatever. It was all regulated, and it still is. So even sport betting is regulated.
Of interest, you see, what we're discussing is what are the consequences of this information age that we're in. Even casinos were in existence from the earliest times. But when I say consequences, what I mean is this. You're looking at someone losing their job because they've even probably gone and taken their entire salary and gone and gambled it.
Yeah.
You're looking at someone who does nothing else other than gamble, so their whole family life is destroyed, it's not any different from someone who's addicted to alcohol. Not any different. The consequences are the same. What is actually not seen is often when people win a lot of money, which is rare, to the time when they lose money, which is often. What then eventually sets in is somebody gets depressed. Mental disorders set in. Mentally related conditions set in. Because you find yourself in a position you didn't need to have been, but you're in, and you honestly don't know how to get out. Now, these are some of the social ills that we talk about, but because it isn't looked at in detail as to why it is, we simply react to it. For instance, many churches condemn drinking. Some actually go further and condemn alcohol and say, pombe, okay? Why? Because they have seen people who've indulged to the point of being addicted and they've seen the consequences. They're not counting the numbers.
So it's actually not the thing that they're condemning. It is the action that comes as a result and the consequences.
Yes. And the condemnation is supposed to be preventative because you're saying, if we don't condemn this thing now, it might be widespread. And what we've seen, we don't like. So that it doesn't get there, let's put a halt to it early. Because I was thinking as we're talking about this, should we then put this big sign outside, say, casinos or gambling establishment, that gambling can lead to loss of money for your family? It can lead to this. And it can also cause you mental problems. Should that be the sign that you find as you enter? That's what first. And a flyer is given to you every day. This is what you need to do.
Just remember.
Yes.
Well, I mean, that's what's done on other things that are considered to be vices. If you look at what's done with cigarette smoking, can cause lung cancer, can cause this or that. On the packet, as you buy it, you read it as you're opening it. You can't,
they will tell you it kills.
There. It kills.
Forget long stories. It kills.
It will kill you.
Yes.
Right? Alcohol.
So gambling can get you addicted.
It can cause depression.
It cause depression, make you lose your job. It can interfere with your family life. Precisely. But then, by the same token, similar signs need to be outside bars.
If you look at other jurisdictions where, communication on, for example, drink driving is very, very clear. There are countries that have come up with such kind of communication. New Zealand, for instance, or is it Australia, where they do nice adverts nice in terms of very impactful in communication, that are showing you when you drink and drive, this is what is happening to you. This is what you're actually doing. You're endangering other people's lives. Somebody else whose life completely changes from this point on, just because you had a bit one too many and you got behind the wheel and you got on the road, and look at what you've done. That kind of communication is there. If you look at other jurisdictions as well that come up with all these alcohol control, consumption controls, where a bar and the barman is required to monitor your drinking and get to a point and they tell you, no,
we're not serving you anymore.
We cannot serve you anymore. And this is a requirement by law, right? Which is going further to, before this happens, there's all this public awareness and communication with adverts saying, this is what happens to you when you drink beyond a certain limit. These are the impacts. This is the impact of that to your family, to your own life, to yourself, to everything. It could lead you into addiction, and thereafter all these mental issues. See, this communication is important.
True, when we were pushing for, but there's also the realization, even further, there's the realization that they're still dealing with human beings, and we can put all this messaging and wonderful communication out there, but it still may not work. So that's what you're talking at. Now, you still give the owner or the service person in that establishment a further responsibility to say, all right, I'm not going to serve you anymore if I see that things are getting out of hand.
Take it to the extent that's humanly possible, that you can enforce some of these regulations and controls. Basically, how far do you want us to go? If we are saying that we shall go even to the bar and have communication at the bar, and then say that the bartender shall have this responsibility over you, and after that, when you get out of this pub, if you're getting into a car, there's somebody who's required to check, are you driving? No, you should not. You're not fit to drive. Police officers on the road will stop you. Are you drunk?
Yeah, so how far can you go with something like gambling, for example? We talked about a pop-up. Okay, so you're about to send the M-Pesa to bank this thing, right? Pop-up comes up and tells you, Remember, if this is the last money that you have, you may get home and you will not have anything to eat. or things like that.
Yes.
Or you go to the booth where you're about to scratch or whatever, and the attendant is bound to ask you, do you have money to get home? If you don't, I'm not going to serve you. Do we need to go to that extent? Because these are the problems that have been cited as a result of gambling.
I think
people then are
to.
using their very last penny that they would have been able to use to feed their family, their children, etc. They're using it to gamble. So are we going to go to that extent for something that individuals are otherwise free to do, the way in which we've done with alcohol?
Create as much awareness as possible. Then after that, now it's personal responsibility, where you will not say that I did not know, I had not thought of it, it had not occurred to me, because all that was brought to your attention. And then you are left now to make your judgment. It's individual personal choice and judgment. But when you've been
fully informed.
But you've been informed. From the very beginning, you know.
And they keep and you keep being informed.
So the thing then is not necessarily to ban any of these things, but the thing that we're looking at is that then make information widely available to everybody so that they can make decisions. Because if you ban it, you're just giving... Look, ban it, people will do the opposite. They'll find a way to do it.
All you've done is...
you've taken it underground.
That's all you've done.
You've created a black market.
That's all you've done.
So banning it, I don't think...
from it.
And you will not, exactly.
Banning is not a solution to this because people will still... Because they say the thing that is forbidden is the one that is sweet, Abi. So now you want to ban it, and then people are going to find a way to do it and put themselves into further danger. So you want to leave it out there, then make sure they're giving them all the information they need to then make responsible decisions about this. Because you're not going to throw somebody in jail for using their last penny to gamble.
The Americans tried this with prohibition. Banned alcohol.
Yep.
Now let's drink.
And yet, just across the border in Canada, they were distilling it.
Al Capone happened. Paul Kinyanjui is back from Makueni. Paul.
Yes.
Yes, we got cut off in the middle of a conversation. And
yes,
I think I'm the one who was asking you this question that we're just discussing now. Do you want it to be completely banned or do you want tougher regulations?
Okay, maybe my position would be, if you look at gambling, one thing, it has employed people. I think one of the areas that we may be losing the point is, if you look at the current generation and the people we are having, when did they first interact with gambling? Those of us who are there in the 80s and the 90s, gambling was still there. But one thing that has happened is that gambling has been inflated by technology. That's one thing we need to admit and understand. Then during the current times we are having, we cannot just look at billboards and imagine that billboards should be the only ones to control gamblers. We have those of us who are brought up in responsible environments, we know very well that parents and guardians who are concerned about our discoveries and the things we are interacting with. So one thing is that apart from the regulations, there is need for serious parenting. If you look at unserious growing and building of morals and values in society.
Okay.
Yeah, we cannot. I can't say that it should be banned or stopped. It's all about making choices.
Okay. Thank you, Paul.
Yeah.
Thank you, Paul. Let's move from Makueni, go to Nanyuki. Stan is in Nanyuki. Good morning.
Good morning.
How are you, Stan?
Yes, now
should betting be banned or more strictly regulated?
I think banning betting is not the solution, but ideally regulation. Basically, the reason why betting has become such a big problem in Kenya is the use of mobile money for payment. If you look at other jurisdictions, basically you have to use your credit card or you visit a shop so that you can go and place a bet. But in Kenya, it has become so much easy to place a bet that using your mobile phone, you can create an account, and then from that point, from the comfort of your seat, you are able to.
So what do you want? You want that to be regulated and changed?
Yes, that is why we need the regulation.
So you're saying if you make it more difficult for people to access this, then the decision...
Introduce barriers.
Yeah, so they won't make a decision to go ahead and gamble.
Exactly. Because when now it becomes for a problematic person who is already becoming addicted, and it is that easy to place a bet, then it becomes very difficult for them to control themselves.
We hear you, Stan.
Because once it is an addiction, it is very passive.
Thank you, Stan. Let me move to Kisumu. Osmond is in Kisumu. Good morning.
Good morning, Eric. Lucky Eric, Ondu, and CT.
Good morning.
We are fine.
Okay, I wanted to say something about this control of betting, or I'll be removing it in total.
Yeah, what's your opinion?
My opinion is, even if you remove the betting farms, the radio stations, Maisha and the park, they have come up with an circumvented, and they're bringing us some funny betting. In fact, taking our money. Somebody wakes up in the morning and says, nani alivisa Jesus Christ, iko shilingi 5,000. Unatuma message, message yako, you are not charged even a single cent. Then when you reply, you are told you are about to subscribe, charging 10 shillings by SMS. Well, so, some people like me understand.
Are you saying that all these should be banned? Because all this is betting.
They should, because they take your credit unawares.
So all of them
and
should
they
be
tell
banned.
you, they should, because when you are told that the SMS is free, and then you are told you are about to subscribe, somebody who is not very good at thinking might say, you may subscribe and credit yako akiweka ya shilingi 10, phew, imeenda. If they talk about 10 million people, they should stop that thing. Then you stop the betting. We'll be more comfortable. Otherwise, give us something to do.
Thank you, Osmond. Oscar Ingong.
Yes, how are you guys?
We are fine, thank you. How are you?
Good, how have you been?
Tuko salama kabisa. Mwongelesha hapa yuko Odijo.
Odijo sasa.
Kaka, vipi?
Poa.
Upo?
Nashukuru, kuna muda wa nyuma nilikuwa na wasiwasi, lakini nafurahi kusikia sauti yako.
Asante, si pia tufurahi kukusikia.
Juu niliambiwa ile pesa ya linda wazee wewe unaipokea. Kashindwa huyu mzee wangu ameenda.
Kwanza yangu walisukuma mbele bwana, nilipewa ya karibu miezi 8.
Kweli?
Wacha.
Sasa
Oscar.
Mine is.
Ban or regulate betting?
I think before we decide either ban or regulate, I would go for ban blindly. But before we make that final decision, I think we should consider the impact. Number one, to me, the betting companies are taking advantage of the most vulnerable in the society. I'm not so sure how many of the middle class engage in betting. And the middle class, it's not that they are doing very well. They are also struggling. But if you look at the percentage of those who engage in betting, I'm very sure they are below $1 a day. And that will tell you that they've looked at the market and played with people's psyche and decided that these bettings will go as low as 20 shillings. And for that reason, they are tapping onto the wider society. But then, when you ask yourself, let's just take an example. The young people who have now been doing in Kazi, what is the new term for the work for the youth right now?
Mtaani.
Kazi Mtaani. I bet if we are to introduce like sports pesa the way it was, a big chunk of whatever they are getting as income, those young people would go back to the betting companies. So ask yourself, how is it that we want to empower people on one end and allow someone else to take it? And if government allows this, it's only allowing because of the revenue it will be getting from the betting company, not for any good of the society. So that's my take. Before we decide whether or not, let the people who are voting for it tell us of what value and good is it to our society.
Thank you, Oscar.
Thank you.
Martin in Kisumu.
Yes, good morning.
Good morning.
Good morning.
Yeah, when we talk about gambling, I think we are clustered into two. We have lotteries and betting. But if you look at betting, I think betting is just okay because this is something that is devoid of conmanship compared to lotteries where, for example, you are told to, put some 15 shillings into M-Pesa, then you're going to win maybe a car.
You stand a chance.
Yes, you stand a chance.
The more entries you make, the higher your chances.
Which is also very, very chancy. Getting that.
Yeah.
So, but betting has been good. It's only that people should just be responsible and some regulation should be put in place. This is an avenue where some people have gotten employed. If you do it, if you do it responsibly, then I think you can make something out of it.
Okay, Martin. Thank you very much. Good day. Many arguments, for and against banning of sport betting and all form of gambling or regulating. And like listening to what Oscar was saying, before we even get to that point, let's ask ourselves, of what benefit is this business to the society, to the government? Well, there's revenue straight for government.
So that's a direct benefit.
And then the other benefit is employment. If you look at, for example, at these sport betting companies and the way as they were mushrooming and growing, you look at the kind of investments that they were bringing in, especially in promotion of sports in the country, the growth and development of football by itself, and then moving out of football and going into the others, boxing, and the others that was being sponsored by the betting companies, and the employment, and then also the other jobs. For example, the other betting companies that are saying you can actually work with us and we help you to set up a shop and a facility.
You know what many countries that have had this sort of matter discussed, what they have done is they've segmented certain geographical areas that are specific for this activity. You want to gamble?
Go there. Go to Macau.
You will gamble. In fact, you'll have more than your fill. What Oscar was bringing in was the debate, the never-ending debate about the economic versus the social benefits of gambling. And the argument usually is that when you look at the economic benefits, they outweigh whatever ills you may say it causes. And so people lean towards that. But it's an ongoing discussion and argument. The moral aspect of it points to the ills that have been seen and can be directly related to gambling. But as I said, it is the same sort of ills that will be directed towards people who drink excessively or are addicted to drink, people who take their hard-earned money and have mpango kandos, because the same effect, neglect of family, destabilizing your domestic setup, all those things apply in the same way. The thing about gambling is the immediacy of it. You gamble, you win.
Yeah.
Or you gamble, you lose. And so the frequency with which you will spend money, no matter how small, is what probably leads. And the more you gamble, it doesn't matter what the amount is, the more you're inclined to continue doing the same thing. Because somewhere along the line, you will win. It's not that you won't win. You will win. And that's what encourages you to continue playing. So the immediacy captivates your mind and you feel today must be the day.
Brian in Nakuru spoke about this and said, look, if we are saying let's allow these companies to continue operating, let's also allow the slot machines. Because this is encouraging small businesses that are mushrooming across the country.
What Brian perhaps didn't point out, or maybe he didn't understand, many of these businesses were not licensed. That's why they could come and
regulated for that matter.
Because the truth is, these machines had gone right into the rural areas.
They were everywhere.
Oh yes, you went into some far-flung rural place and you're at a shopping center where tea costs 20 shillings in this big steel mug. So you're not sure whether you want to burn your lips or your hands.
And
just
the mandazi the size of a head.
Yes, exactly. It's a massive it's a massive mandazi. Okay? And it's hot. And then just alongside, alongside there are these gambling machines where the largest amount of money you can put in is 20 shillings.
But there are people who are lined up
So they were not regulated because also the business went ahead of government in those areas.
It did.
So let's not even blame these people. Business went ahead of government. If the county government had not come up with, the rates or the kind of regulation or what kind of licensing they want to give for those, don't blame them.
You see, business-minded people saw the advantage and brought those machines.
At the end of the day, look, you have people who drink responsibly. You have people who operate in these other activities responsibly. And at the end of the day, I think it comes down to an individual and their thought process and what they're going to make decisions about or not. Because whereas you have people who are abusing these things, you have people who are not. And the majority of people are not.
So you are for?
I'm saying that if you have regulation, you have regulation, allow people to do what they're going to do. Anyway.
You can actually understand why they're saying what they're saying. Because using the example of what I actually saw, someone came and parked a motorbike, came out, put 20 bob.
He's supposed to be working.
Nothing happened, put 20 bob, just left, went on his motorbike.
And
were they waiting for someone? So were there for half an hour. The guy came back again. So I assumed he had taken some passengers, had got another 40 bob, came back.
Hey, whereas maybe that 80 bob could have bought something for his family.
The end of the show. Join us again tomorrow, 6 a.m. to 10 a.m. for more interesting conversations. Again, reflecting what's happening locally and across the globe. As we finish today's proverb.
The road doesn't tell the traveler what lies ahead. As we're talking about gambling, many people who gamble don't fully understand the full consequences of getting into the habit of gambling to the point where you're addicted. Because it takes over your life, it takes over your money, and it takes over even your mind. That is the road ahead.
Okay, thank you very much. Join us again tomorrow. Have a good day, folks. It's 10 o'clock.